Chapter 949. Ah, ah, ah. Lei Zhengyu roared angrily in the arena. The lightning in his body flickered and exploded. His strength was several levels higher than before. He, who was originally at a disadvantage, suddenly gained the upper hand. He crazily suppressed his opponent, and the arena was filled with lightning. Boom! After his opponent was sent flying by a punch, he spat out a mouthful of blood and fell heavily from the sky. Lei Zhengyu roared and continued to charge forward. When he was ready to beat his opponent again, his opponent hurriedly shouted, "I admit defeat, I admit defeat." After admitting defeat, a judge immediately stood up and signaled for them to stop fighting. "You lost. Quickly apologize to my friend." Lei Zhengyu panted and glared at his opponent in front of him. He spat out a lot of blood, which splattered on the ground. It seemed that his condition was quite serious. If this continued, he would definitely die in the arena. His opponent could surrender, but he couldn't. "Lost? We didn't lose. You still have many of us to defeat. How can you say we lost?" Their opponent was a large group of people. Perhaps they didn't know each other, but facing a human, they immediately united and refused to admit defeat. If they wanted to admit defeat, they would have done so long ago. They wouldn't be so shameless as to send people up. To Yi Tianyun, winning the tag battle was a loser. Is that so? Come on then. Come on. Lei Zhengyu's body swayed, and he almost fell. However, he stood firm and looked at them with a fierce gaze. He would never admit defeat. "No matter how many of you come, I will defeat you until you admit defeat." He was panting, but his stubborn heart supported him. "This kid is really tough. I didn't expect him to be so good." They didn't admit defeat, but they were still shocked. Lei Zhengyu had defeated several of them in a row. Just this result alone was shocking. However, they didn't admit defeat. They wouldn't admit defeat no matter what. Find a stronger opponent and beat him to death. "We will definitely win this time. If not for the cultivation limit, I would go down and beat him up." They were very displeased to see Lei Zhengyu like this. If not for the fact that the dueling ring did not allow the difference in cultivation, the dueling ring would only allow the difference of 1 or 2 cultivation realms at most. If the difference was too great, not only would it not be worth watching, but it would also result in a crushing defeat. Yi Tianyun, who was watching from below, narrowed his eyes slightly. He turned to his fellow tribesmen and asked, "None of you intend to go up and help?" "Help?" A look of shock appeared in the eyes of this fellow clansman. "We're so much weaker than them. How can we help? And even if we defeat one of them, they'll bring more powerful helpers later on. We'll still lose." The surrounding people all shook their heads. Their thoughts were the same. None of them wanted to stand out. If he stood out, he would be beaten to death. In addition, there were so many people here suppressing him. It would be hard for him to survive in the future. They could only choose to silently endure the humiliation. In this state, it was akin to dragging out an ignoble existence, living for as long as they could. If they forcefully stood out, the only result that awaited them would be getting into trouble. They would be in a troublesome situation, so how could they cultivate in peace? Yes, who doesn't want to stand out? But the other party is so much stronger than us. In the end, we were suppressed to death. There was a situation like this before. A group of people were suppressed by force, but in the end, they were still suppressed, causing them to leave the heavenly mandate divine realm and wander outside. I remember that incident. It was very big. There were a few very powerful people who led a group of people to kill everywhere. When all the human clans thought that they could rise, a super genius from the other side came and defeated everyone. After that, they sank into depression, and their status was getting worse day by day. They all shook their heads. As long as this divine realm was not controlled by the human clans, their status could not be higher than that of other clans. Or it could be said that they had absolute power. Otherwise, they could not support it at all. If someone were to lead you, would you stand up and fight with them? Yi Tianyun looked at them and asked. "Forget it, there's no hope." "Yes, there's no hope. Don't struggle in vain, little brother. The idea is good, but the reality is cruel." They all chose to shake their heads. Even if someone were to lead them, They did not want to do such a thing. They had failed so many times that they were so desperate that they could not stand up. Yi Tianyun saw despair and pessimism in their eyes. There was no passion to speak of, and there was no motivation at all. How could they improve their status like this? No wonder their status has always been lower than others, and they have always chosen to live. What status can they have? Yi Tianyun shook his head and jumped forward. He immediately landed beside Lei Zhengyu and reached out to pat him on the shoulder. Lei Zhengyu turned his head and looked over. When he found it was Yi Tianyun, he was delighted. "Brother Yi, thank you for your hard work. Leave it to me." Yi Tianyun took out an elixir and handed it to him. "Take this elixir, and then it's my turn to perform. I'll thank you properly for helping me protect my reputation before." Lei Zhengyu took the elixir without hesitation and stuffed it into his mouth. He grinned and said, "It's no big deal. I just can't stand them. No matter what, we must maintain our dignity. We must not lose our dignity." "Who are you? What are you doing here? Are you here to fight?" When the cultivator at the side saw Yi Tianyun going up to help, he frowned and said, "Do you humans think you can fight against us? So what if I am?" Yi Tianyun looked at him and said indifferently, "There is no problem. In that case, you are willing to help him?" The other party looked at him and said disdainfully, "So what if I am?" Yi Tianyun repeated. Such an indifferent tone immediately made them feel extremely displeased. A cold look flashed across their eyes. "All right then, I will let you participate in the battle on my behalf, in case you say that we are bullying him with numbers," the other party said. "Aren't you bullying him with numbers?" Yi Tianyun found their words very funny. He glanced at the people present and said coldly, "Since that's the case, I will give you a chance to bully him with numbers. Whether it's one or a group, you are very welcome to compete with me." Yi Tianyun had just come up, but he already said such big words. This caused many people to exclaim in surprise. Especially the cultivators who talked to Yi Tianyun just now. When they saw him go up and say such words, they were all stunned. Was he trying to put on an act and provoke everyone present? The others were immediately infuriated. They all glared at him, their faces alternating between green and red. "There is no need to bully him with numbers. I will come down and fight with you in this round." Following that, a young man descended from above. His cultivation was similar to Yi Tianyun's, a second refinement earth monarch. Yi Tianyun had just come up and released a bit of his aura to let them know what level he was at. The people they sent up naturally couldn't exceed this level of cultivation. Moreover, this level of cultivation wasn't considered low. Yi Tianyun looked him up and down and said with a faint smile, "Don't you like to bully him with numbers? Why don't you continue? I very much welcome you to gang up on me. It's not that I like to torture myself, I just want to satisfy your wishes. All of you came to play a tag battle and won't admit it even after losing. What a joke. Is this the so-called arrogance of your race? To me, those who have always bullied the weaker races to show off their superiority are actually characters with low self-esteem. Only by suppressing other races can they obtain a sense of accomplishment. This kind of person is really trash. A true expert wouldn't care about this at all. Instead, all of you are like frogs at the bottom of a well. What a joke." Chapter 950. Yi Tianyun's words were full of thorns, causing their faces to turn green and pale, making them extremely embarrassed. Many of the others who remained neutral were also extremely disdainful of their behavior. Previously, they had agreed that it would be a normal match, and the loser would apologize. Who knew that they would start a tag team battle, and Lei Zhengyu almost couldn't hold on. Winner takes all. What else is there to say? Do we still need to talk about fairness on the battlefield? What an idiot. Win against us first. The cultivator standing opposite Yi Tianyun glared at him, not the slightest bit self-conscious. Even now, they didn't think that they had done anything wrong. "Ha, winner takes all. Then let's talk with our strength." Yi Tianyun looked at them coldly and said, "I'll give you one last chance. Choose to fight as a group, or fight one by one. It's up to you." T. "I alone am enough to deal with you." The other party looked at him angrily and shouted, "Come on, don't be so long-winded. If you want to fight, Then fight. I will make you humans unable to say a word. Just like what happened in the past, all resistance is futile. If you want to stay here, you'll have to obediently stay here and bow down to us. Boom. A figure rushed over and kicked him away. His whole body caved in, but he showed mercy and didn't kill him. Instead, all the bones in his body were broken. Following that, this lump of soft mud fell to the ground, and all the blood in his body splattered in all directions. It was a tragic sight, but he still had one breath left and didn't die. This was done on purpose by Yi Tianyun. Killing him was too satisfying, and he wanted to teach these pigs a lesson. Even with good medicinal pills to treat him, he wouldn't be able to get off the bed without a few years, or even decade. Next. Yi Tianyun looked at them coldly and said, "No matter how high your cultivation is, you can come down. Even if you are the Lord of Heaven, you can come down and challenge me." Domineering, absolutely domineering. With a single kick, he had turned a second refinement Earth monarch into a meat patty. Moreover, he had even held back. If it were someone more violent, he would have been kicked to death. But he didn't do so. Instead, he made them remember for the rest of their lives, knowing that there was someone who would forever be their nightmare. Everyone was dumbfounded. With just one move, the opponent was seriously injured. Wasn't this strength too domineering? Too powerful. I didn't expect him to become so powerful in such a short period of time. Lei Zhengyu, who had retreated off the stage, was extremely excited. He shouted to the people beside him, "What's wrong with you guys? Aren't you going to cheer for them? Beat those fellows into a sorry state. Let them look down on us humans." Seeing Lei Zhengyu's excitement, the others looked at each other with fear in their eyes. Not to mention cheering, they didn't even dare to cheer. They could only shout it out in their hearts and did not dare to shout it out from their mouths. This was because they knew that if they shouted, the other party would definitely come after them. At that time, they would have to bear the consequences. When Lei Zhengyu saw that they weren't very excited, he felt very disappointed. It seemed like their hearts were already dead, and they didn't have any hope. To put it bluntly, their servility was too strong, to the extent that they didn't dare to shout out. It was truly a kind of sorrow. "Why? You guys aren't willing to come down and challenge me? Don't you like to take turns fighting? Come down. That passerby just now was defeated by me. Now, it's the next person's turn." Yi Tianyun glanced at them, indicating for them to continue. "I'll do it." At this moment, a third refinement Earth monarch jumped down and glared at him, saying, "This time, I'll take revenge for Brother Fan. You don't even know his name." Boom. Yi Tianyun's figure flashed, and he kicked out fiercely. This third refinement Earth monarch's outcome was immediately the same as that Brother Fan, turning into a pile of meat paste. He didn't die, but he had to be treated in order to survive. Otherwise, only death awaited him. Next, this passerby has lost. Yi Tianyun looked at the cultivators in front of him indifferently. Originally, they had disdainful expressions, but now, all of them had expressions of horror. When they saw how violent he was, their hearts started to tremble. He had merely defeated two, and they immediately didn't dare to come down. Lei Zhengyu wasn't violent enough, and the other party didn't suffer too many losses. Therefore, they dared to continue. Yi Tianyun was much more violent. He settled it with a single kick. How could they not be frightened? What's wrong? Is no one coming down? All a bunch of cowards. Previously, you said that the winner is the king, and the loser is the thief. Now, you are the bandits, a bunch of trash. Just based on trash like you dare to challenge us humans? Yi Tianyun sneered. He wasn't afraid of them at all. "Me, I'll do it." A fourth refinement Earth monarch took out a middle-grade reincarnation rank weapon, mustered up his courage, and jumped onto the stage. He was fully prepared to completely crush Yi Tianyun. Just as he finished his preparations, he saw a flash of light. With a boom, he immediately lost consciousness and turned into a pile of meat paste just like the previous two. This passerby has lost. Next. Yi Tianyun shouted very loudly. He had a feeling of rushing into the mountains and rivers, and his roar soared into the clouds. Such a roar caused those disheartened humans to feel excited. It was as though they saw a hope standing in front of them, guiding them to continue forward. Next. What's wrong with you guys? Didn't you want to continue fighting? Next, a bunch of trash. Lei Zhengyu roared from below, indicating for the other party to continue sending people down instead of standing foolishly at the side. Right. Next. Continue sending people, a bunch of trash. Next. Good job, beat them into a sorry state. At this time, all of them mustered up their courage and roared out the dissatisfaction in their hearts. The entire area was instantly filled with their roars. They completely released the pressure in their hearts, and their voices resounded throughout the heaven and earth. When Yi Tianyun saw that the situation here was being led by him, he immediately felt gratified. This was the essence of what should be done. Even if the result was a loss, they shouldn't choose to give up. Instead, they should stand firm and continue to charge forward. What a big tone. You think we have no one? At this time, a handsome youth floated over from the side. He held a fan in his hand and looked down at Yi Tianyun from the sky. Liu Baixing is here. The number one genius of the inner hall is here. At this time, they immediately saw hope. They were originally suppressed, but now that Liu Baixing was here, they immediately became excited. This was the number one genius of the inner hall. His cultivation had reached the 6th refinement of the Earth Monarch rank. He belonged to the standard of the number one genius of the inner hall. It was rumored that he was ready to join the core hall. This was enough to prove how strong he was. Some people said that he could reach the 8th refinement of the Earth Monarch rank. If he reached the 8th refinement of the Earth Monarch rank and charged towards the Lord of Heaven, then he might become an elder-level mission in the future. This was truly admirable. When he appeared, those people immediately shut up. Their auras sank, and they didn't dare to shout anymore. All of them seemed to have wilted. Chapter 951. Liu Baixing's elegant demeanor immediately attracted a round of cheers, filled with hope for his arrival. Those who were previously listless were now extremely excited. Finally, there was an expert who stood up for them. Senior brother Liu, defeat this brat and teach him a lesson. Yes. He's too arrogant. He thinks this is the human race's world. Beat him to death. All of them cheered. They were no longer as listless and silent as before. In contrast, the atmosphere on Lei Zhengyu's side quickly cooled. All of them kept quiet out of fear, not daring to utter a single word. It was a world of difference from before. What's wrong with you guys? Isn't he just an inner hall genius? Do you think we'll lose? Lei Zhengyu was very dissatisfied with the surrounding people's performance. They had been a little excited before, but now, all of them were listless. Wasn't this showing that the other party's prestige was too great? This is Liu Baixing, the number one in the inner hall. Not to mention the human race, even those powerful races will be trampled underfoot. If we continue to make noise, we'll definitely be targeted. That's right, this is Liu Baixing. We can't win, we'll lose. Not only will we lose, we'll also be humiliated. All of them shook their heads, completely not daring to continue shouting. All of them shrank back like turtles. How can you be like this? Are you sure you'll lose? No matter what, you have to try, right? Lei Zhengyu looked at them and said angrily, I believe you are all experts in Fan Yu. Why are you all acting like turtles here? Is it because of this that you don't dare to resist? Where's your pride from before? Where's your fighting spirit from before? Under Lei Zhengyu's stern voice, a light emerged in the depths of their eyes. Lei Zhengyu's words made them recall the situation back then. They were all top existences in Fan Yu, climbing up step by step from the bottom to reach the divine realm with great difficulty. In the end, they discovered that they were just ants, far inferior to others, and were easily abused. After being oppressed for so long, they had completely lost their previous fighting spirit. In the eyes of Fan Yu, they could be said to be geniuses among geniuses, but here, they were not even comparable to cabbages. It was really a kind of tragedy. Their eyes were filled with bewilderment. Lei Zhengyu's words still didn't inspire their fighting spirit. Everything was suppressed by the other party's aura, and they couldn't summon the slightest will to resist. Yi Tianyun glanced at the situation below and did not say anything. Instead, he looked at Liu Baixing and said indifferently, "The number one genius of the inner hall? If you want to fight, hurry up and come down. Don't just stand there like an idiot." "How dare you call me an idiot?" Cold light flickered in Liu Baixing's eyes. He had always been high and mighty, and no one dared to disrespect him in the slightest. Now that someone had insulted him, he was instantly infuriated. Humans really are humans. How despicable. They have no manners at all. No wonder you've always been at the bottom. You have only yourselves to blame. Manners are for humans. You're just a beast. Yi Tianyun said indifferently, "In my opinion, you just rely on your little bit of ability to trample on those who are weaker than you. That's even more despicable. Especially when you lose, you don't even admit that you lost. You don't even have the most basic integrity. How can you stand in this world?" His words immediately angered many people, but they couldn't refute him. When Lei Zhengyu fought in the arena, he had indeed said such things, but they hadn't fulfilled their promise. Good, good, good. You really have guts. Then let me test you out. Let's see how strong you are. Liu Baixing landed on the arena. Just as he steadied himself, a stream of air swirled around him. It looked ordinary, but in fact, he had already sealed off his surroundings. No matter which direction the attack came from, he could quickly react. It could be said that every step was not taken recklessly. Liu Baixing wasn't the kind of person who would easily lose his rationality. Yi Tianyun had easily defeated two people. Even he didn't dare to be careless. Just this move alone made Liu Baixing's supporters behind him cheer. This kid is dead for sure. I believe that under senior brother Liu's attack, he won't last more than 10 moves. At most 5 moves, and that kid will be defeated. They were so confident that the title of the number one genius in the inner hall wasn't just for show. Liu Baixing could be said to have defeated countless strong cultivators in the inner hall before finally sitting in the number one position. This was not a random title. The eyes of the human clan dimmed, and they all shook their heads. This halo was too dazzling. On the other hand, what halo could this side have? He was just a nobody. Are you ready? Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. I'll let you make 3 moves first. Swish. A cold light pierced through, and Liu Baixing's pupils shrank. He quickly waved the fan in his hand and swept it forward. In an instant, the fan turned into hundreds of fans, forming a thick wall in front of him. It looked indestructible, like an impenetrable fortress. Boom. A violent force came crashing down, and the hundreds of fans were blown up by a punch. In the blink of an eye, they turned into a pile of powder. Liu Baixing's heart sank, and then he saw a fist pass through the shield he released and hit his chest. Boom. He felt his chest sink, and then an intense pain came along with it. It was like a wave that charged up his body, and because the pain was too intense, he fainted in less than half a breath of time and lost all consciousness. Bang! Liu Baixing fell from the sky, and a large part of his chest caved in. The rest of his body was the same. He felt that the power of this punch spread out, causing his whole body to shatter. It was still just a punch, and the number one genius in the inner hall was defeated. Number one genius in the inner hall? Yi Tianyun shook his head and said indifferently, "Just so. Can't even withstand a blow." He was so arrogant. The other party wanted to step on him, so he would step on them ruthlessly and let them feel this feeling. The whole place was in complete silence. Everyone stared at Liu Baixing, who was lying on the ground, and doubted if their eyes were playing tricks on them. The number one genius in the inner hall was defeated in a single punch when he was prepared. To have such a standard, could it be that the other party had already reached the level of the Lord of Heaven? But that wasn't right. When he first came up, he felt that the other party had the cultivation of a third refinement Earth monarch. Now, he could defeat the other party with a single punch, and he was 3 levels above him. It was truly unbelievable. Too powerful. The number one genius in the inner hall was defeated. Lei Zhengyu looked at them excitedly and said, "Look, what are you afraid of? Not to mention the number one genius in the inner hall, even the number one genius in the core hall would be defeated." Chapter 952. Yi Tianyun's victory immediately gave them hope. It's not that they want to rely on Yi Tianyun, but it let them see the hope of resistance, proving that humans also have potential, and not always be suppressed by bloodline. Really, the first genius of the inner hall was easily defeated. It seems that our human race still has potential, we can still beat them down. Yes. If we admit defeat, then we will lose everything. What are you afraid of? Even if we lose, we can do it again, we can unite together. I don't believe that we can't beat them. One by one, their confidence came back, and their fighting spirit rose crazily, sweeping away the confusion in their hearts. They just have no confidence in themselves, thinking that they will never surpass others. That's why they have been depressed. It's like no matter how hard they try, they can't catch up with others, and in the end, they will only completely lose their fighting spirit. They found this feeling from Yi Tianyun, and it made them excited. Humans also have unlimited potential. When Yi Tianyun noticed the situation here, he couldn't help but smile. This is the fighting spirit they should have. Ding successfully restored the fighting spirit of more than 100 people, gaining 10 billion EXP, 1 million crazy point, 1 million mastery points, 500 karma. There is also a small task. Interesting. Yi Tianyun smiled. It's quite interesting. He just doesn't want to let the human race decline. It's not a good thing for him. Everyone is so depressed. In the future, if people from the 3 realms come, won't they also be affected? Change starts from now. He can't stay stagnant. One side is cheering, the other side is depressed. What's wrong with you? Don't you want to continue to duel with me? Just come down. Yi Tianyun glanced at the opposite side of the crowd, motioning them to continue to duel with him. They looked at each other and saw a bit of fear in each other's eyes. They won't die, but they will definitely be crippled. They don't want to lie in bed for decades. Even if they recover, they will fall behind their peers by a lot. A few decades is not a long time, but it is difficult to catch up in the divine realm. It takes a lot of effort. Junior brother Liu. At this time, a white figure floated down to Liu Baixing's side, picked him up, and quickly fed him an elixir. Then, he turned to look at Yi Tianyun and said angrily, "Did you hurt junior brother Liu?" Yi Tianyun looked over and discovered that the person who came down was actually a stunning beauty. Her eyes were red, and it was obvious that she was in love with Liu Baixing. Now that Liu Baixing had been beaten into a pig's head, how could he not be angry? Yes, it's Feng Xueqiu from the Core Palace. She seems to like Liu Baixing, that's right. He seems to have just returned from training recently, and it seems like his cultivation is about to break through to the 7th refinement earthly monarch realm. He's one of the best in the core hall. His overall strength is much stronger than Liu Baixing's. Looks like I have a chance to defeat that kid. So it's senior sister Feng Xueqiu. This is incredible. Ha ha ha, this kid is dead for sure. He injured Liu Baixing, so big sister Feng Xueqiu will definitely cripple him. This isn't the main point. The main point is that she's a disciple that Elder Nyan thinks highly of. I heard that she has a high chance of being taken in as a personal disciple. Each and every one of them looked over at this side with Schadenfreude, feeling that Yi Tianyun was definitely dead for sure this time. Although their cultivation was all at the 6th refinement earthly monarch realm, this was the level of the core hall. His overall strength definitely wouldn't be weak, and he was a lot stronger than Liu Baixing. Especially when there was still a great reputation behind him. That was the disciple that Nyan Tsiyu thought highly of. A disciple that the future successor thought highly of, who dared to injure recklessly. If he was injured, wouldn't Nyan Tsiyu fight it out with him? The faces of Lei Zhengyu and the others changed. How could they not know a woman with such background? Especially the person that Nyan Tsiyu thought highly of, that was even more shocking. With such a strong background, even if Yi Tianyun was stronger than the other party, did he really dare to injure her? Yi Tianyun looked at this woman with a strong background and said indifferently, "I injured him. What's the problem? Alright, as long as you admit that you injured him." Feng Xueqiu put down Liu Baixing and handed him to the people beside her to take care of him. She stood up and looked at him coldly, saying, "Cripple both your legs and I will spare your life." Quite arrogant. This is a normal arena competition. What qualifications do you have to give such a punishment? Yi Tianyun looked her up and down, especially when he heard that Nyan Tsiyu was taking care of her. It seemed that she had some background, and that was why she became arrogant. To put it bluntly, if Nyan Tsiu and the others didn't think highly of him because of this matter, he would immediately choose to leave this place. With so many god regions, he didn't believe that no one would take him in. Qualifications? Feng Tsuecho looked him up and down and said with contempt, "You are new, right? You don't even know my identity. A core hall disciple, and also Elder Nyan's future personal disciple. I am more than enough. If you want to survive in the god region, you better do this obediently. Otherwise, you will be imprisoned in the depths of the prison and never be able to rise again." Her face was full of arrogance as if she was doted on by millions, and no one dared to touch her. Everyone nodded their heads and felt that what she said was reasonable. This identity was really hard. Is that so? What does this have to do with me? Yi Tianyun said indifferently, "Just because of this, I have to cripple my own legs and feet. I didn't think that there would be such an idiot in the core hall. If it was someone else, this might work, but it is useless against me." "You." Feng Tsuecho's eyes were cold. She took out a white silk and jumped down from the arena. She landed firmly on the ground and glared at him. "Very good. Since it is like this, then I will test you and see how strong you are." Just as she finished speaking, Feng Tsuecho flung the white silk in her hand and whipped it towards him. A middle-grade reincarnation-level weapon, it represented that her background was indeed extraordinary. Yi Tianyun didn't even dodge. Facing the white silk that was whipping towards his head, he quickly reached out and grabbed it. With a peng sound, a cold aura spread out from his hand and instantly froze his arm. Feng Tsuecho's attack was not an ordinary attack, it was an attack filled with extreme cold. Therefore, when Feng Tsuecho saw Yi Tianyun grab her white silk, she couldn't help but laugh. "What an idiot, you still dare to grab my attack with your bare hands. Your hand is about to be crippled." Everyone else thought the same way. "Why did you have to pretend to be a big shot? You will directly be frozen and crippled. Just this little bit of ice, I still don't care." Yi Tianyun fiercely pulled the white silk towards him. The powerful force dragged Feng Tsuecho over, causing her to cry out in fear. In the blink of an eye, she was dragged in front of him. Feng Tsuecho was so scared that her beautiful face turned pale. Without waiting for her to react, Yi Tianyun slapped her. "Pa." Feng Tsuecho was heavily slapped. Her entire body was sent flying and her face was slapped high. Chapter 953. Feng Tsuecho was sent flying by the slap. Her beautiful face was swollen, and a few of her teeth were knocked out. It was a horrible sight to behold. She was no longer a goddess. Her face was now swollen like a pig's head. He didn't hold back at all. He was merciful. Yi Tianyun didn't hit her too hard for Ciu's sake. Otherwise, she wouldn't be a core disciple. She would still be crippled like Liu Baisheng. The crowd was dumbfounded. What was the use of being a core disciple and Ciu's identity? Yi Tianyun still hit her, which made Lei Zhengyu clap his hands. She had nothing to do with him anyway. "Brother Yi, you did a good job, but you are a bit too courageous." Lei Zhengyu couldn't help but give a thumbs up to Yi Tianyun. He thought it was amazing. He really didn't hesitate at all when he said he would fight. The other humans all gasped. Did he really not plan to stay in the heavenly mandate divine realm? She was Ciu's future disciple. Hitting her disciple was equivalent to slapping Ciu's face. "How dare you hit me?" Feng Tsuecho screamed like a cat whose tail was stepped on. She jumped up from the ground and covered her face. She glared at Yi Tianyun and shouted, "Do you know who I am? You ignorant human, stupid human, the lowest human in the divine realm. You are only fit to be a slave forever." Slap. Yi Tianyun slapped her again, causing her to retreat again and again. "Say it again." Yi Tianyun said coldly. You dare to hit me again. I want you dead. You humans are worse than trash." Slap. Yi Tianyun slapped her again and sneered, "Go on. You, slap. Go on." Yi Tianyun slapped Feng Tsuecho a few times in a row. Feng Tsuecho's face was disfigured. Her face was swollen like a pig's head. It was impossible to tell her original appearance. Apart from the lower half of his body which looked normal, his face was unrecognizable. Feng Suetio was beaten to the point that she couldn't speak. Her head was dizzy from the beating. Other than letting out whimpering sounds, she couldn't make any other sounds. You think I don't dare to hit a woman? Even if it's a woman, I still dare to hit her. Yi Tianyun turned his leg around and kicked Feng Suetio. Peng! Feng Suetio was kicked out and landed heavily on the ground. In the end, he was no different from Liu Baisheng. All the bones in his body were broken, and if he wanted to get out of bed, he would need to recuperate for at least a few years, or even decades. Killing them was indeed the most direct and brutal method, and he could even gain a lot of experience, but to him, it was too easy for these idiots. As for whether or not they would take revenge after a few decades, he was not the least bit afraid of these idiots taking revenge on him. At that time, he was afraid that they would not even have the qualifications to look up to him. Senior Sister Feng. A young girl rushed over and hugged Feng Suetio. When she saw her senior sister's appearance, she glared at Yi Tianyun and said, You are dead. How dare you beat Senior Sister Feng like this? She is the seeded contestant of the Divine Realm's ascending battle. You will have to bear the wrath of Elder Nyan. The cultivators on Lei Zhengyu's side trembled. They felt that they had really gone too far this time. If Elder Nyan really pursued this matter, wouldn't they all be finished? It's over. If Elder Nyan pursues this matter, he will be in trouble. Indeed so. Ari, even if his ability is not bad, he will not be able to deal with someone with a strong background. Don't worry, Brother Yi will be fine. He is so much stronger than the others. I don't believe that these elders are blind. That Feng Suetio's ability is not bad, but she was still defeated by Brother Yi. So on and so forth. Brother Yi's talent is much stronger than theirs. What is there to worry about? Lei Zhengyu was a little worried, but he felt that the heavenly mandate realm would not punish Yi Tianyun. If so, it would be a great loss. On the other hand, Feng Suetio was sneering. She felt that Yi Tianyun was waiting for death this time. Even if his ability was not bad, he could only wait to be punished by Elder Nyan. I heard that someone has already reported to Elder Nyan. This kid is definitely Finnish. Let's see if he can still be arrogant later. He will be thrown into prison and will never be able to come out. Just thinking about it makes me feel good. We can't let this kid get away with it. Everyone gnashed their teeth at Yi Tianyun. Even if Yi Tianyun was very strong, he could not convince the crowd. This was their nature. They would never admit that the human clan could ride on their heads. Yi Tianyun looked at them coldly and said, Don't talk nonsense up there. If you are a man, come down and challenge me. Didn't you want to duel with me before? Now, you can come at me. I will take on as many as you want. These words made their faces turn green and white. If they went down, they would definitely lose. How could they continue to play? Whether it was the number one genius of the inner hall, the genius of the core hall, or the existence with a backer, they would all be crushed. This made them feel very tragic. They did not know what to do. Should they go down, or should they really stay up there and be cowards? They did not want to be cowards, but if they went down, they would definitely lose. The result did not seem to be good. What? Are you all not willing to come down? Since you have been waiting for so long, choose to admit defeat and apologize to my friend. Yi Tianyun pointed at Lei Zhengyu and said coldly, You have already made a promise before. Now you can fulfill it. They looked at Lei Zhengyu and did not know what to say. Did they really have to lower their heads to the human clan? But if they did not lower their heads, the young man in front of them would definitely scold them to death. At that time, it would be even more embarrassing. When they were in despair, a familiar figure appeared beside them. It was Nyan Ciu who was flying over. There were also a few female disciples beside her. Clearly, they deliberately went over to bring people over. When they saw Nyan Ciu, they immediately revealed pleasantly surprised gazes. When they looked at Yi Tianyun, their gazes were filled with ridicule. More of them were gloating over his misfortune. Injuring Feng Suetio, let's see how this ends. Elder Nyan, he was the one who injured senior apprentice Sister Feng. Moreover, he was very heavy-handed. Not only was he heavy-handed, he even insulted senior apprentice Sister Feng. The female cultivator beside her added oil and vinegar. Yi Tianyun did not insult Feng Xueqiu from start to finish. They only saw Feng Xueqiu continuously insulting Yi Tianyun. You are talking nonsense. Brother Yi did not insult them. I only heard them insulting Brother Yi all the time. Lei Zhengyu stood out without hesitation and firmly stood his ground. That's right. We can all testify that Elder Nyan absolutely did not insult Senior Apprentice Sister Feng. It was entirely Senior Apprentice Sister Feng who insulted him first. None of them shut up. In the end, there were still some people who chose to stand out and defend Yi Tianyun. When Nyan Ciu saw Yi Tianyun, she immediately rolled her eyes at him and said, I was just about to ask where you went. I looked for you for half a day. I did not expect you to come here and cause trouble. Chapter 954. I heard that someone bullied my friend, so I came to see what was going on. I didn't expect that someone would insult me, so my friend stood up for me. Yi Tianyun shrugged his shoulders and glanced at the group of people on the side. You even said that I entered the core hall through the back door, and that I might not be human. Isn't that an insult to me? As soon as Yi Tianyun said this, everyone present was dumbfounded. Why did these words sound so familiar? You are the human who created the record. They were all dumbfounded. The existence that they had suspected for a long time was right in front of them, and he easily killed their people. This proved that he was really someone with real strength. What's going on? He is the genius that appeared in our human clan, Yi Tianyun. The cultivator next to Lei Zhengyu looked at Yi Tianyun, and then looked at Lei Zhengyu. His eyes were full of shock. Yeah, didn't you hear me call him Brother Yi? His real name is Yi Tianyun. Lei Zhengyu rolled his eyes at him. He had called him Brother Yi so many times. Did these people not know? They opened their mouths wide. How could they think that it was Yi Tianyun? There were so many people with the surname Yi. They couldn't be sure that it was Yi Tianyun just because he called him Brother Yi, right? They didn't expect that he was really a legendary existence. He had broken several records. Just based on this, he was a super popular person. His status was definitely much higher than Feng Xueqiu's. The two could be said to be at a different level. The people on the other side were also dumbfounded. They felt like they had eaten a fly. This was no longer an iron plate, but a mountain. The key was to see what Nyan Tsiu would say. Everything depended on her judgment. Nyan Tsiu's expression quickly became cold. She turned her head and looked at them. She said coldly, "Is there such a thing?" She was very unhappy now. Yi Tianyun was the hope of the heavenly mandate divine realm. If something happened, who could bear the responsibility? She didn't even need to investigate to know what the problem was. In the end, it was still a problem of racial discrimination. This kind of matter was indeed a headache. She did not expect that it would fall on Yi Tianyun. This was not something she wished to see. If Yi Tianyun had a bad feeling and did not work hard for the heavenly mandate divine realm, it would be a great loss for them. Yes, there is such a thing. They all lowered their heads, their hearts chilled, especially the lady who had planned to watch Yi Tianyun get punished. She was dumbstruck, and her heart sank to the bottom. She had thought that Nyan Ciu would stand by her side, but now it seemed that she was gravely mistaken. She was completely standing by Yi Tianyun's side. If she was standing beside them, Nyan Ciu wouldn't have asked such a question. Instead, she would have directly punished Yi Tianyun severely. Good, very good. After Nyan Ciu shouted twice, she looked at them coldly and said, "This is the arena. If you bet, you must be willing to lose. You are still not willing to admit it. If this gets out, how can we, the heavenly mandate divine realm, have any face left? Do you want others to laugh at us, the heavenly mandate divine realm, saying that we are all untrustworthy, especially to our own clan?" No, it's not like that. Their voices were very low, not as arrogant as before. Each of them was like a child who had done something wrong. They lowered their heads and did not dare to refute. Whether it is like that or not, now that you have done it, I will give you a choice, and that is to correct your own mistakes. Apologize to Yi Tianyun obediently. He not only created a record, but his strength is also stronger than yours. Instead of cultivating properly, all of you are here grinning mischievously. What a scandal. Nyan Ciu motioned for them to apologize quickly. No matter what, Yi Tianyun was in the right, so they naturally let them apologize. They felt very uncomfortable, but since Nyan Ciu had said so, they could only say to Yi Tianyun, "I am sorry, it is all our fault. We spoke nonsense and caused you trouble. We are very sorry." They chose to apologize one by one, but it was really embarrassing. It was like being pressed on the floor to apologize, and it was more uncomfortable than eating a fly. Yi Tianyun glanced at them and nodded gently. He did not bother to pay attention to them. He knew that it was impossible to change their minds immediately. Everything could only be done slowly. If he wanted to change their minds, the most important thing was for the human clan to become stronger, so that such a situation would not occur. It was impossible for him to change it by himself. He needed to change it little by little. Therefore, he did not care about their attitude, and he could only take it slowly. After apologizing, Nyan Ciu looked at him helplessly and said, "Can we go now? I am ready here. It is time to go with me." "Almost. Elder Nyan, wait for me for a moment." Yi Tianyun smiled and immediately came to Lei Zhengyu's side and said, "Brother Lei, thank you for your help before. It is just that you are a little stubborn." He also gave a thumbs up to Lei Zhengyu. Even though he was not strong, his pride was very strong, and he was very friendly to friends. He could feel that Lei Zhengyu really treated him as a good friend. "Don't say that, it is embarrassing." Lei Zhengyu scratched his head and smiled. "Actually, I feel that Brother Yi is very powerful, and you are my first friend here. If others speak ill of you, I will definitely not forgive them. Moreover, they insulted the human clan, which is even more unforgivable." Yi Tianyun patted his shoulder and took out a mid-grade reincarnation-grade weapon. Under everyone's shocked gaze, he handed it to Lei Zhengyu and said, "This is a gift for you. It should be of great help to you." Mid-grade reincarnation-grade weapon? Lei Zhengyu was shocked and immediately pushed the weapon back. "No, this weapon is too precious. I cannot accept it. You should keep it for yourself. That way, you will be able to use it to its greatest effect." Yi Tianyun shook his head and smiled. "Take it. If you don't take it, it means that you do not treat me as a friend." This. Lei Zhengyu looked at Yi Tianyun's determined gaze and had no choice but to accept the weapon. "All right then, I will accept this weapon. Thinking about it, I really made a big profit this time." The others were very envious, but this was what he deserved. If it were them, would they dare to stand up for him? This was equivalent to risking their lives. It was not that easy to earn. "Then, Brother Lei, cultivate well. I look forward to your performance in the future." Yi Tianyun patted his shoulder and turned to leave with Nyan Ciu. Lei Zhengyu looked at his back as he left and clenched his fist. "I should work harder. Otherwise, it will be difficult to protect my hometown." His gaze was filled with determination. He had never been at a loss. It must be said that his Dao heart was very shocking. Ding successfully subdued Lei Zhengyu as a god general. Obtained 50 billion experience points, 5 million proficiency point. Chapter 955. The problem of the race has always existed. I thought about it before, but I didn't expect it to appear on you so quickly. Nyan Ciu didn't console him and instead said cruelly, "This is a common problem in the divine realm. It is hard to change in a short time. Currently, we can at most change ourselves. It is too difficult to help people of the same race change." When she said that she wanted to change herself, she was mainly talking about changing the way others saw her. This was quite easy. Yi Tianyun was very strong, and if he could get into the top 10 in the Divine Realm Ascending battle, or even the top 50, he would be recognized immediately. The people on this side immediately became very respectful to him. There was absolutely no discrimination in this, but absolute worship. However, this was only for Yi Tianyun. As for the other humans, they couldn't be bothered to care. This was like how the Phoenix race treated him well. They were hostile to the other humans, but he was an exception. After all, he helped the Phoenix race before, which was why he received such treatment. Hence, it was the same here. After receiving glory, he was the only one who was different. The others would still be discriminated against. Yi Tianyun nodded and said calmly, "I understand. It is indeed more difficult. I don't expect to change anything now. I don't intend to purposely change everything. When he saw those people, they just gave him a little help and made him their leader or something, and then he led them. He didn't think about this for now. After all, this required too much time and was very difficult. He couldn't even deal with his own matters now, let alone such a thing. Nyan Xiu looked at him and thought for a while before saying, "Actually, our sky feather race has always been like this. We walked step by step until we obtained this divine realm. Races without divine realms have always been looked down upon." She pointed out the most crucial point, which was the territory. Without the An family's territory, coming here was equivalent to being an outsider. The other races could be so arrogant mainly because they had status here. Their bloodlines were even stronger. Have divine realms? Yi Tianyun shook his head. With his current situation, he couldn't complete such a difficult task for the time being, just like in the three realms. It wasn't even a grade 1 faction, yet it wanted to become a deity nation faction. One could easily imagine how difficult it was. Nyan Xiu heaved a sigh of relief when she saw that he was no longer thinking about it. What she was most worried about was that Yi Tianyun would wave his hand and say that he would take over the divine domain or rule over the human race. It was as if his head had been kicked by a donkey. He would be slapped to death in minutes. After all, this idea was very dangerous. There were so many people who did not like the human race, so they naturally did not want the human race to rise. Yi Tianyun's cultivation wasn't bad, but to them, he was just an ant that could be squashed to death with a flip of their hand. If he wanted to change it, then the cultivation base of the Lord of Heaven was nothing but a fart. It was completely useless. The Heavenly Feather Clan was able to occupy the Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm not only because they were strong, but also because they had been here for generations and had occupied the place for a long time. Under Nyan Xiu's lead, they boarded the spirit ship and flew towards an unknown place. Yi Tianyun couldn't be bothered to care about where Nyan Xiu was going. Anyway, as he had said before, he would be taken to the core area. As for where the core area was, he was not too sure. Especially since they were going there through the spirit ship and not through the teleportation formation, it was enough to prove that the place should be relatively hidden. "Aren't you curious about the core area that I am taking you to? What kind of place is it?" Nyan Xiu saw that Yi Tianyun was calm and could not help but ask. "No matter where it is, we will find out when we get there. Anyway, I believe that Elder Nyan will not trick me, right?" Yi Tianyun smiled and said. "That is true." Nyan Xiu was suddenly speechless. She just thought that Yi Tianyun would be a little curious. She did not expect him to be so calm. Then, Nyan Xiu stopped talking and continued to fly forward with him. Not long after, Nyan Xiu said again, "We are ready." At this time, Yi Tianyun opened his eyes and looked forward. It was still a huge planet outside. However, from the outside, all he could see was a hall and nothing else. "Let's go out." Nyan Xiu took him outside. Not long after they flew out, there were immediately guards intercepting them. These guards were all triple refined Earth Lords. Their cultivation was quite good. "Oh, it is Elder Nyan." The guards recognized Nyan Xiu. If they did not even know who Nyan Xiu was, then they had been guarding here for so many years in vain. "Yes, I am bringing someone in. I have already reported it," Nyan Xiu said. The two of them looked up and down at Yi Tianyun, then nodded and said, "You are allowed to pass." Nyan Xiu looked at Yi Tianyun's direction and continued to fly down with him. Yi Tianyun looked at the guards behind and said in confusion, "This place is a bit too strict. Elder Nyan, you can't even bring anyone in?" "If I could bring anyone in, I would not have gone to the Region Lord for approval," Nyan Xiu said in a deep voice. Nyan Xiu said in a deep voice, "This could be said to be the best place for training in the Heavenly Mandate Divine Realm. If anyone could be brought in, the energy here would have been exhausted long ago. The best place for cultivation?" Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. He wanted to see what the best place for cultivation was. When he just landed, he immediately felt a strong vitality coming from under his feet. It made him feel like he was bathing in the spring breeze. He felt that all the pores in his body were opened. This life force was even stronger compared to the longevity equipment. Even ordinary humans would be able to extend their lifespans by staying here. Even if they did not cultivate, they could easily break through to the Spirit King stage. Such a strong vitality. Yi Tianyun looked up and saw a hall in front of him. It was not very big. The real highlight was that there was a huge tree on top of the main hall, wrapping the entire main hall inside. However, he could see that the tree was formed later. It was impossible for the hall to be built before the tree. Of course, this is the place with the strongest vitality. No matter what kind of hidden injuries you have, you can get relief or even be cured here. Nyan Ciu said proudly, it can be said that among the many first-grade divine realms, our longevity temple is definitely ranked in the top 3. He did not know the ranking of the cultivation places, but he could feel that this place was amazing. Elder Nyan, are you asking me to heal my injuries? Yi Tianyun smiled and said, I remember you said that you need to improve yourself by fighting, right? Chapter 956. Nyan Tsiu's words made Yi Tianyun feel quite interested. It was not a battle, but it was more effective than a battle. I hope so. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed. He relied on battles to gain experience. If the experience gained here was too little, it would not be as fast as fighting and killing enemies. Unless the experience gained here was extremely fast, it was also a good place, especially since the life force here was so rich, which could strengthen his body slightly. Then, under Nyan Tsiu's lead, they walked into the hall. What came into view was not a luxurious place. It was surrounded by countless trees and vines. From here, they could see a long corridor, which was in the shape of a spiral, continuously winding to the bottom. Looking down casually, they knew that the depth was too shocking. He even wondered if the entire planet was penetrated by this corridor. The deeper they went, the richer the life force was, which was released here. Below, they could even see that the life force had become solid. Green starlight floated in the air, which showed how rich the life force was. Is that Captain Jiyu? Yi Tianyun was stunned. He did not expect to see an acquaintance here. Not to mention Captain Jiyu, even his old rival, Tri Yuan, was here. The area where they stayed was not deep, roughly a few thousand meters deep. They were meditating and cultivating by the side of the corridor. Didn't you say that this is the core area? Why do I see so many people here? Yi Tianyun glanced over and found that the lowest level of cultivation here was the Lord of Earth, and the highest was the Lord of Heaven. This was not the point. The point was that there were many cultivators here. Not to mention the number, there were dozens of people cultivating here. He thought there were only a few people here. He did not expect there to be so many, especially some captains here, which made him very confused. Nyan Tsiu saw his confusion and explained with a smile, the core area is not an absolute core secret. As long as you provide a certain amount of contribution points, you can still come in and cultivate. Hearing Nyan Tsiu's explanation, he looked carefully and found that it was true. There were so many people here, and some of them were captains. To put it bluntly, they were similar to guards with a higher status. They maintained most of the order in the heavenly mandate divine realm, so they contributed more. It was not wrong to let them in. How many contribution points are needed? Yi Tianyun asked. You have to help maintain order here for at least 500 years. At the same time, you have to hand over 20 choice tokens before you can come in and cultivate for a month, Nyan Ciu replied. This. Yi Tianyun wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. This requirement was really high. Although he had thought about it, this requirement was really not low. 500 years plus 20 election tokens, which meant that the election tokens obtained after 200 years of service were handed over just like that. Furthermore, he could only stay for a month. He had to spend 200 years to exchange for a month's time. There are many ways to obtain the choice token. The biggest foundation is 500 years. Nyan Ciu couldn't help but laugh when she saw Yi Tianyun being frightened. Indeed, the biggest problem was 500 years. It wasn't long, but it wasn't short either. Of course, the 20 choice tokens were also a difficult problem, and the price they had to pay was not small. However, if the first condition was met, as long as one used something to exchange for an election token, they could also come here to cultivate. It was just that the price was really high. No wonder it was called the core area and still needed to be approved. Then what about us disciples? How can we come in? Yi Tianyun asked. This also depends on one's contribution to the mission, or one's talent. Some of them can be made an exception to let you in to cultivate. For example, you are one of them. Our original plan was to wait for the next Divine Realm Ascension battle before you participate. Or you can participate in the battle in advance, but that is on the premise of gaining some experience. Nyan Ciu explained. However, you are very outstanding and your breakthrough speed is shocking. We plan to let you be one of the main forces in this Divine Realm Ascension battle. That is why we made an exception to let you in. Otherwise, you really wouldn't be able to come in. Then how long can I stay here? Yi Tianyun asked. As you are a little special, the requirements are stricter. You will run down from here. The lower you go, the heavier the pressure. Even the Lord of Heaven can cultivate here. Nyan Ciu explained. Your starting point is 1 month. The lower you go, the more 1 month you can have, so on and so forth. In this Life God Temple, there is a total of 100,000 meters. This means that if you can run to the bottom, you can get 20 months. Of course, if you can really surpass 80,000 meters, you can get an additional year. If you can run to 100,000 meters, then you can stay until the Divine Realm Ascension battle. Before 80,000 meters, this 5,000 meters is the standard. How far you can run will depend on your ability. After hearing this rule, he really didn't get resources for free. As expected, he needed to fight for it with his own strength. This is easy, 100,000 meters is the deepest. Yi Tianyun lowered his head and looked down. It was really deep. If he flew normally, 100,000 meters would be gone in the blink of an eye. The difficulty of going down was definitely not small. Otherwise, it wouldn't have such a high difficulty. Let me explain here. There are a few of the strongest geniuses in the core hall who are already cultivating at the bottom. They are really arrogant. If you can knock them down a peg, we will be very happy to see this. Nyan Ciu looked at him with a smile. If I help knock them down, will I get any benefits? Yi Tianyun smiled. Not really. Can't I help them along the way? Nyan Ciu smiled. Unless you are not willing to go down, I believe that with your strength, it won't be a problem for you to surpass them. Nyan Ciu knew his ability. He was able to suppress an early-stage Lord of Heaven. Dealing with these core hall disciples was a piece of cake. All of them were extremely arrogant. If someone could knock them down and wake them up, letting them know that there was always someone better, it was a good choice. This will depend on the cultivation area. Does it satisfy my needs? If it doesn't, then I won't continue. Yi Tianyun shrugged. If the experience gained wasn't objective, then there was no point in staying here. If this place can't satisfy you, then there really isn't any place in the first-grade God domain that can satisfy you. Nyan Ciu smiled. Fighting isn't the standard to temper yourself. This can also satisfy you, especially since your breakthrough speed is too fast. This place can stabilize your cultivation. Chapter 957. After listening to the instructions, Nyan Ciu left and told him to stay here and cultivate. Nyan Ciu still had a lot of things to do. The Divine Domain Ascension battle was about to begin, and there was a lot of preparation work for the elders. Let's go down and see how it works. Yi Tianyun glanced down the stairs and immediately turned to run down the stairs. Just as he walked down, he immediately felt a rich life force transmitting from his feet. Obtained 5,000 experience points, 6,000 experience points, 7,000 experience points. As he walked down, he gained more and more experience. He didn't even need to absorb it deliberately, and the experience kept rising. What surprised him the most was that the planet in his body also began to absorb the life force, making the trees on it more vigorous and nourishing the entire world. There's such an effect. Yi Tianyun's eyes flickered. When he solidified this planet, he didn't know what it was. After understanding it, he discovered that it was a change in the power in his body. To have the power of a planet, one had to keep condensing it. Very few people could condense it at the Star Lord level. Most people could only condense it at the 5th or 6th refinement of the Earthlord level. This was considered relatively fast. Some even broke through to the Lord of Heaven to be able to condense it. One could imagine how difficult it was. Yi Tianyun could condense it at the very beginning. Now, the power of the planet had formed and was expanding rapidly. In fact, that power was astral power. With this planet circulating in his body, it would continuously produce star power and store star power. With continuous cultivation, the planet would become bigger and bigger. In the end, living creatures could even live on it. It could be said that this was a very important thing. Without this planet, one would fall behind by a lot in the future and would basically be like a cultivator who couldn't even get started. Now, when Yi Tianyun went down, he discovered that his planet was being nourished. This meant that if this continued, his planet would continue to expand and become stronger. When he first came to the divine domain, he condensed a planet to have stronger power. This meant that if this continued, his power would continue to expand again. Grade 1 planet. Yi Tianyun watched the planet in his body strengthen bit by bit. With continuous nourishment, it was very likely to break through to a Grade 2 planet. The power of the planets in one's body was also divided into grades. The higher the grade, the stronger it would be. This was similar to the strength of meridians. The stronger the planet, the stronger the meridians. Looks like this is indeed a good place. Not only can I obtain experience, but I can also expand the planet in my body. I wonder if they think that I have obtained the power of a planet. Yi Tianyun's eyes flickered, and he immediately smiled, speeding down. 20,000 experience points, 30,000 experience points, 40,000 experience points. As he sprinted, his experience bar shot up rapidly. It was quite impressive. In the blink of an eye, he had reached a height of more than 1,000 meters. Here, the pressure rapidly multiplied. There was a kind of gravitational force pressing down from above. It was at least 1 billion kilograms. They had only been running for 1,000 meters, but there was already such a terrifying gravitational force. It was really shocking. No wonder Jiyu Yanlong and the others could only stay at around 16,000 meters. That was probably their limit. If they continued to run, not to mention walking, it would be good if they could even meditate there. His addition was not eye-catching. Everyone was focused on meditating and cultivating. Time was very precious here, and they could not afford to waste a single second. Therefore, they tried their best to absorb the life force here to nourish the power in their bodies. Not only was the life force here rich, but the spiritual power here was even richer. It could be said to have reached an astonishing level. No wonder it was said to be the best place to cultivate. Those words were not made up. As he sprinted down, his speed did not decrease at all. Soon, he reached Jiyu Yanlong's side. Jiyu Yanlong felt someone approaching and opened his eyes subconsciously. "It's you." When Jiyu Yanlong saw Yi Tianyun, he was instantly stunned. "Captain Jiyu, long time no see." Yi Tianyun smiled. Actually, it had not been many days since they last met. In other words, it was less than a few months. Indeed, it has been a while. Jiyu Yanlong hurriedly stood up and looked him up and down. He said in surprise, "I thought that you might make an exception to enter. Now, you really made an exception. As expected of a genius. Yurong has already told me about you. You are amazing in all aspects. Your talent is really amazing. But this is more than 10,000 meters. You came down so easily." Jiyu Yanlong was very surprised and felt that it was inconceivable. He obviously did not know about Yi Tianyun's situation, nor did he know about the situation on the arena. Even a 3rd or 4th tier Earth monarch was easily defeated. If he knew, he would not have asked such a question. "It's all right," Yi Tianyun said modestly. "Isn't this the human from before?" Beside him, Shu Yuan also stood up in surprise. When he saw Yi Tianyun, he was dumbfounded. Then, his eyes were filled with jealousy. When he saw Yi Tianyun coming over, it meant that an exception was made to enter. Only those with amazing talent could enter early without a lot of contribution points. These people were called seeded contestants. Disciples who could participate in the ascending battle of the deity realm would not have that much time to slowly accumulate contribution points. Therefore, an exception was made to allow them into this area. That's right. This is the human that you looked down on before. Now he has entered the God Temple of Life. Jiyu Yanlong sneered at Shu Yuan. It was an obvious slap in the face. Shu Yuan did not refute. He was already here. What else could he say? No matter what he said, it would only be a slap in the face. He had spent 500 years to enter this area, but Yi Tianyun had entered so easily. If he still sneered at him, he would only be humiliating himself. Jiyu Yanlong smiled and looked at Yi Tianyun and said, "Then let's cultivate. Time is really precious here. I can only exchange for 2 months of time." Jiyu Yanlong said, "Okay, then you cultivate well. Make every second count. I don't have much time either." After greeting Shu Yuan, Yi Tianyun continued to rush forward under Shu Yuan's surprised gaze. What's going on? This brat can still go down? Shu Yuan and the others were shocked. Staying here was already their limit. It should be said that it was not their limit, but if they wanted to cultivate, they could only stay here. It was like being suppressed by an unbearable force all the time. It was impossible to cultivate well. In the blink of an eye, Yi Tianyun had already rushed up 20,000 meters in one go. He had left the two of them far behind, which shocked them to their core. The last time they saw Yi Tianyun, he was only a Star Lord. Chapter 958. Is this kid trying to show off? It won't do him any good to go down and cultivate by force. Looking at Yi Tianyun's figure, Shu Yuan felt disdain and shook his head. Young people will always be young people. We can also go down by force, but what's the point if we can't cultivate? I can feel that his cultivation has broken through. He should be a second refinement Earth Lord, Jiyu Yanlong said, shaking his head. When Yi Tianyun left, he left a strand of aura so that Shu Yuan could roughly feel his cultivation. The energy fluctuation couldn't be faked. He could still feel it clearly. Second refinement Earth Lord. Shu Yuan almost bit his tongue. Last time, he was a Star Lord, but now he was a second refinement Earth Lord. How did he cultivate? The jealousy in his eyes intensified, but he still said mercilessly, "So what if he's a second refinement Earth Lord? I'm a third refinement Earth Lord. I'm sure that he'll turn back in a moment and obediently cultivate nearby." He didn't want to admit defeat, so he was sure that Yi Tianyun couldn't have gone far. "Oh, looks like you're still stubborn. You won't admit defeat. Do you want to bet with me again?" Jiyu Yanlong sneered. This. Shu Yuan was stunned. He remembered that he lost the previous bet. If he lost again, wouldn't he lose his underwear? What this? I'm asking you if you want to bet or not. Let's not bet on anything else. We'll bet on 20 election tokens, which is a month's time. Jiyu Yanlong looked at him and said, "Damn it, let's bet." "I don't believe it." Shu Yuan was furious. He didn't believe that Yi Tianyun could create another miracle, but how should we bet? At least set a standard. How about I lose if I go back and cultivate nearby? I win if I can stay above 20,000 meters. How about that? Jiyu Yanlong said with a smile. Deal. Shu Yuan made the decision immediately. He looked at Jiyu Jun and smiled. "Captain Jiyu, you're going to lose this time. How can you stay above 20,000 meters without an Earth Monarch at the 4th level? Indeed, without a 4th refinement Earth Lord, one can't stay above 20,000 meters, but that depends on the person." Jiyu Yanlong smiled. "I believe he can stay longer this time." What a joke. His cultivation base must be unstable for him to advance so quickly. It's fine if your foundation is stable, but if you break through so quickly, you definitely won't be able to stabilize your foundation. Tri Yuan continued to refute. "I'm not going to say anything more to you. Won't you know later?" Jiyu Yanlong couldn't be bothered with him. After all, no matter what he said, the other party would refute him, so he couldn't be bothered with him. "All right, let's wait and see." Shu Yuan humphed coldly and sat down to cultivate while observing the situation below. If he had scouted for information from the outside, he would never have made such a bet. It was simply a free gift. "Kid, You must create a miracle. Jiyu Yanlong smiled and said, whether or not I can continue to stay here for another month depends on you. He did not know why, but he felt that Yi Tianyun could continue to create miracles. Of course, Yi Tianyun didn't know what they were betting on. He just kept rushing downwards and soon reached 25,000 meters. After a while, he reached 30,000 meters again. His speed was like a gust of wind as he rushed downwards. Up above, Tri Yuan was dumbfounded. It had only been a few minutes since the bet was made, and the result was already out. Captain Tri, you lost. Jiyu Yanlong smiled and said, if you can reach 30,000 meters so easily, I believe that even if you can't withstand it later on, you can at least reach 20,000 meters, right? With their abilities, they couldn't even reach 25,000 meters, let alone 30,000 meters. Those who could reach 30,000 meters would definitely be able to stay above 20,000 meters for a long time. Tri Yuan was about to cry. He had worked so hard to collect dozens of tokens, and now he had to give away 20 of them. It was a huge loss. What about me? Hurry up. Jiyu Yanlong walked over and patted his shoulder. I'll give it to you. Tri Yuan clenched his teeth and handed over the token. Seeing the token being taken away, Tri Yuan could feel his heart bleeding. It was such a loss. The result was decided in just a few minutes. He thought it would take a long time. This kid is really my lucky star. Jiyu Yanlong smiled and said to Tri Yuan, but you are my god of fortune. You can stay here for another month. Humans can't be that powerful. He must have some kind of ability. Tri Yuan could only comfort himself like that. Yi Tianyun had no idea that the bet was settled so quickly. He continued to run downwards. He felt that the life force was getting denser and denser. More and more life force was flowing into his body. His experience points increased from 1,000 to 1 million. Basically, he gained 1 million experience points in just a few seconds. The speed of gaining experience points was quite shocking. Most importantly, the planet's nourishing speed was even faster. The trees that were originally small saplings grew to a few meters tall in an instant. Soon, when he reached 50,000 meters, a young man passing by opened his eyes and was surprised to see a stranger passing by. Who is that? The person surpassed him so easily, and he looked even younger. He frowned and wondered who this guy was. Not only did Yi Tianyun surpass him, but he also passed by many cultivators. Some were Lord of Heaven, and some were outstanding disciples of the core hall. All of them were easily surpassed by him, which immediately attracted their attention. Especially since he was a new face, they had never seen him before. A new face could reach more than 50,000 meters from the very beginning. His ability was quite shocking. Who is that kid? Is he a new disciple of the core hall? It can't be. He just joined and he can rush so deep. That's not possible, right? He looks so young, and his cultivation doesn't seem high. Let me feel his aura. He seems to be a third refinement Earth Lord. There were elders and deacons meditating below. Their cultivation levels were not low. There was no lack of 5th or 6th refinement Earth Lords, and no lack of Lord of Heaven. Of course, this Lord of Heaven was probably around the 5th or 6th refinement Earth Lord. He was not very strong. However, they were all easily surpassed by Yi Tianyun in the area they were in. All of them were dumbfounded. They didn't know who this newcomer was. When Yi Tianyun surpassed a young girl, she suddenly opened her eyes. A golden light shot out from her beautiful eyes. It was as though it was material and almost penetrated the ground in front of her. Who is he? When the young girl saw Yi Tianyun's back view, she stood up from her meditation and looked at him with a burning gaze. Interesting. There are really not many people who can surpass me when we are around the same age. She didn't think much and actually chased after him. It seemed like she wanted to have a contest with Yi Tianyun. Chapter 959. This girl's eyes were filled with battle intent. She actually didn't plan to continue cultivating here. Instead, she sprinted forward in a frenzy. Her speed was rather astonishing. She caught up to Yi Tianyun in an instant. Yi Tianyun felt someone beside him. He subconsciously turned his head and saw an absolute beauty chasing after him. She was dressed in green, and her light green hair was fluttering behind her. Not only was she dressed in green, but her eyes were also light green like two emeralds. They looked rather beautiful. Especially when she was chasing after him, every step she took would produce a small tuft of flowers and grass, which highlighted her extraordinariness. Blooming flowers with every step. Is this the wood deity body? Yi Tianyun was startled. His appraisal eye displayed the detailed information of the other party. This girl's cultivation was at the 7th refinement Earth Monarch. Not to mention, she also had the wood deity body, which was several times stronger than the Ice Sage body. One was a sage, one was a god. The difference was obvious. The wood deity body could be said to be blessed by the vitality of heaven and earth. As long as it was related to the wood attribute, it would have a great effect on her. This meant that cultivating here for a day was equivalent to cultivating for a month for others. This was the difference. Some talents couldn't be caught up with just hard work. The difference was simply too great. Unless she didn't cultivate and forcefully suppressed her cultivation, no one could catch up to her. Are you new here? Murong Xiao asked with a smile. More or less. It seems like you are the strongest disciple in the core hall. Yi Tianyun ran all the way. Apart from her, no one else was at the front. As for those Lord of Heaven, they didn't have a chance once they broke through to the Lord of Heaven. The Ascension battle only allowed Earth Monarchs. Lord of Heaven definitely didn't want them. Of course, there were exceptions. For example, those at the 8th or 9th refinement Earth Monarchs had some value. Before that, they didn't have much value. Second-grade gods wouldn't want them at all. Strongest disciple in the core hall? Murong Xiao squinted his eyes and smiled. The strongest disciple you mentioned is that person. He has always wanted to catch up to me, but he has always been behind me without any motivation. I'm dying of boredom here. No one can play with me. Yi Tianyun turned his head to look at the youth who was standing quite a distance away from them. His face was filled with shock. He was the strongest disciple of the core palace. Upon closer inspection, it was indeed the case. Reaching the 7th refinement Earth Lord cultivation level was indeed quite strong. However, he was also a 7th refinement Earth Monarch, but the gap between him and Murong Xiao was more than 10,000 meters. Not to mention catching up, he couldn't even get close. Unless it was an elder-level existence, it would be impossible for them to catch up. If he is the strongest disciple of the core palace, then are you not from the core palace? Yi Tianyun was a little surprised. If she was not a core disciple, then where was she from? Of course I'm not from the core palace, I'm. Murong Xiao smiled brilliantly, and said to him, if you catch up to me, I'll tell you. She broke into a run and sprinted forward, stirring up a wave of fragrance in front of him. To be able to run so fast at this level, it had to be said that her strength was astonishing. Indeed, in this divine realm, there were many geniuses. This was already a distance of 60,000 meters, and she could still run so fast. It seemed like she was playing this way on purpose. Other people couldn't wait to stay here for a while longer, but she seemed to be impatient. She could even stay here and wait for others to catch up. This was the difference between people. Presumably, she was the daughter of some big family, otherwise, how could she be so willful? Yi Tianyun shook his head, and couldn't be bothered with her. He raised his leg and chased after her, and without any suspense, he caught up to Murong Xiao. Looks like you're really naughty. I'm actually not interested in catching up to you at all. Yi Tianyun smiled and said, of course, I'm not interested in your identity either. I'm just asking casually. After saying that, he sped up and overtook Murong Xiao. His speed continued to increase, and the distance between the two of them widened. Murong Xiao watched as he got further and further away. She was startled at first, but then she smiled brilliantly and said, interesting, I haven't had such an opponent in a long time. After saying that, she increased her speed as well. Her footsteps became faster and faster, and flowers bloomed under her feet. Under the astonished gazes of the crowd, the two of them began a chase. Others were struggling to persevere here, but they seemed to be playing, running down easily. This caused the crowd to be dumbfounded. Damn, where did they come from? How could they run above 60,000 meters so easily? You're asking me, But who am I supposed to ask? Most importantly, they're humans. Am I seeing things? None of them knew. Only the young man sitting in front of them could be considered as the second strongest existence. He clenched his fists tightly and stared at Yi Tianyun. What's wrong with this brat? He stole my thunder. Murong Xiao even started running with him. If he gets the chance, we're finished. He was the first disciple of the core hall, Yuan Tianyu. Whether it was talent or strength, he was number one in the core hall. Of course, the first disciple referred to the new batch. If compared to the old batch, there was no way they could compare. He really wanted to catch up, but he couldn't run at all. A terrifying power was pressing down on him, making it difficult for him to move. Damn, is this the difference between a genius and a genius? Jiyu Yanlong couldn't even cultivate in peace. He didn't know what to say when he saw the chase between Yi Tianyun and Murong Xiao. Xu Yuan's expression was extremely ugly. This time, he didn't lose unjustly. His opponent was about to reach 70,000 meters. He was a one-man race, and they wouldn't be able to catch up even if they had 2 more legs. Everyone had different thoughts. There were 2 people who made it difficult for them to cultivate in peace. They all opened their eyes to see who would lose first. I don't believe I can't catch up with you. Murong Xiao bit her lips, and a faint green light suddenly shone from her body. Then, a red lotus appeared behind her and blossomed in the air. It was very beautiful. At this moment, the blossoming flower under her feet was even more shocking. The pressure on her body was reduced, and she suddenly sped up. Gradually, the distance between them was shortened. Yi Tianyun glanced at them and couldn't help but smile. Geniuses were indeed somewhat arrogant. They were starting to catch up with their full strength. However, he didn't use his full strength. He only used his physical strength and nothing else. His physical strength alone was enough to charge down. Chapter 960. Yi Tianyun didn't have the habit of giving face to beauties. He maintained a steady speed as he ran down. The more he ran, the more experience he gained. The key to him coming down here was to gain experience, not to get to know these beauties. Murong Xiao spent a lot of effort to barely catch up. However, her forehead was already dripping with sweat. It was enough to show that the pressure here had a big effect on her. Yi Tianyun looked carefully and found that Murong Xiao's body had changed. The life force around her was constantly being absorbed to replenish her body's consumption. No wonder she could persist for so long. This is a paradise for her. Yi Tianyun shook his head. With an amazing physique, she would be a lot better than others. Hehe, you want to get rid of me? It's not that easy. Murong Xiao glared at him. Her jade feet were constantly flying. She was running barefoot. Especially now that she was dripping with sweat, she looked really tempting. However, Yi Tianyun didn't buy it. Instead, he shrugged helplessly and said, "You say it as if I abandoned you. I'll say it first. I didn't abandon you. Don't talk nonsense and cause people to misunderstand. You lecher." Murong Xiao's pretty face turned red. Like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, she screamed, "How could this lady be abandoned by you? The number of men chasing this lady can line up from here to my house. You are not even in the line." After being ridiculed, Murong Xiao was angered. She wanted to reach out and grab Yi Tianyun. Yi Tianyun smiled and increased his speed. "So don't talk nonsense and cause people to misunderstand. There are a lot of people watching." Yi Tianyun dropped a sentence and continued to run forward at a faster speed, leaving her behind. You can still increase your speed." Murong Xiao was dumbfounded. She was running at the limit of her speed. If she continued to increase her speed, it wouldn't be a normal burst of speed. She would be risking her life. She could only grit her teeth and continue to chase forward so that the distance between them wouldn't be so far apart. However, the distance between them continued to widen bit by bit. Yi Tianyun's figure gradually disappeared into the distance, causing her to feel a sense of helplessness. If they were to compete in terms of speed here, she would only be able to look at his back. There was no way she could catch up to Yi Tianyun. Yi Tianyun had to circulate his dragon god bloodline slightly to raise his strength to the extreme in order to maintain his accelerated state. Otherwise, There was really nothing he could do. The crazy damage mode was not very useful here. It could be said that it had no effect. After all, this was a pressure suppression, not a fight. Therefore, he was purely relying on his physique and his own strength to rush down. Under the effects of the double stacking, he could still persevere. After chasing for a few thousand meters, Murong Xiao finally couldn't take it anymore and stopped. He stomped on the ground and looked at Yi Tianyun angrily. "Just you wait, I'll catch up to you soon." "Okay, I'll wait for you." Yi Tianyun turned his head and smiled at her. This little girl was really stubborn. After saying that, she sat down on the ground and began to cultivate. She had to get used to the weight here and have a breakthrough before she could move forward. Otherwise, if she continued, she would definitely not be able to persevere. It was already quite amazing that she could sit down and cultivate on the ground. One must know that she was currently at a distance of 73,000 meters, far surpassing the many cultivators behind her. According to gravity, this place was equivalent to more than 70 billion kilograms. The terrifying gravity was enough to make them unable to bear it. She was a delicate girl, but she could still persevere. If it were anyone else, it would be really unbelievable. As Yi Tianyun continued to rush forward, he felt the pressure getting stronger and stronger. With his current situation, it was difficult for him to continue sprinting forward at a fast speed. From the original running to the current walking, the pressure was quite heavy for him. Of course, he could still continue to move forward, but from the initial rapid running to a brisk walk, he could still maintain a good speed. Just a little bit more and I can reach 80,000 meters. When that time comes, it will directly increase the time by 1 year. Yi Tianyun looked at the bottom. His real goal was the bottom. He felt that there was a special force at the bottom. Therefore, he desperately wanted to go down. He didn't want to reach 80,000 meters, which would be considered a success. 80,000 meters was just a small process, and the difficulty was not considered high. Very quickly, he crossed the 80,000 meters mark. The people above were all dumbfounded. 80,000 meters. This was 80,000 meters. To be able to reach this level, probably only the elders could reach this level. But for an unknown human to achieve such an achievement, it was really unbelievable. After reaching 80,000 meters, he had just crossed it when a terrifying pressure pressed down, causing his legs to instantly weaken. He almost knelt down, but he still forced himself to persevere. How did the gravity instantly exceed 50 billion kilograms? Isn't the gap a little too big? Yi Tianyun felt a little speechless. He thought it was still within 100 billion kilograms, but in the blink of an eye, it rushed to more than 100 billion kilograms. The pressure is really too much. This time, his speed immediately slowed down, basically almost the same as walking, even a little slower than walking. 80,000 meters should be the limit, he can't continue, right? Everyone was relieved. If he really climbed to the bottom, then it would be really abnormal. Those who can climb to the bottom are all elders and above, the rest are really not seen. If Yi Tianyun can really go down to the bottom, doesn't it mean that he has the power of an elder? It's almost time, I can only use more power. Yi Tianyun's body shook and said solemnly, "Upgrade Dragon God Bloodline. Successfully deducted 50 million crazy points. Upgrade Dragon God Bloodline to 7th grade. The next level requires 500 million crazy point." Crackle, crackle. His body began to make a crisp sound. On the surface, his body did not grow bigger, but his body became more solid and terrifying. After the successful upgrade, his strength suddenly increased a lot. "Let's go." Yi Tianyun smiled slightly and continued to quickly trot forward. His speed was not fast, but from barely walking before to being able to trot, it is already a great breakthrough. Damn, is there something wrong with my eyes? He can still run. Did he just take a break just now? They just breathed a sigh of relief, but now again, their mouths are wide open, they can't believe it. Chapter 961. Yi Tianyun couldn't be bothered with their gazes. He just continued to run. He didn't use his full strength. He just jogged towards the depths, not too fast nor too slow. No one laughed at his speed. They only felt that he was too strong and had extraordinary abilities. Others were already unable to move an inch, but he could still continue to run. How could they not be shocked? As he ran forward bit by bit, he soon reached 90,000 meters and continued to run for 100,000 meters. This caused everyone to think that this human could reach the lowest level of the pyramid. The situation here quickly alerted the elders outside. Soon, Elder Yu and the others appeared on the side. When they saw the situation, they couldn't help but shake their heads. This kid can run to 90,000 meters. How did he cultivate? I suspect that it won't take long for him to surpass us old men. Yu Yanglong and Ming Yuqing both shook their heads. They didn't know what to say. It hadn't been long, and Yi Tianyun already had such results. According to this, it wouldn't take long for Yi Tianyun to surpass them. Elders are too modest. Even if he can reach the bottom now, it doesn't mean he can surpass you. A deacon on the side said. These words were a bit flattering, but it wasn't a lie. Both of them were Earth monarchs at the 7th or 8th level. Even if they were only at the 2nd level of the Lord of Heaven, with the power of the demon fire, they were far from what an ordinary Lord of Heaven could compare to. If they truly erupted, even an ordinary 5th or 6th level Lord of Heaven wouldn't be able to stop them. These days, cultivation was extremely important. But more importantly, one's foundation needed to be strong enough. If one's foundation was strong enough, it wouldn't be a problem to jump levels to kill. The reason why their cultivation was so slow was largely due to the problem of the demon fire. Because of the demon fire, their breakthroughs were slightly slower. But that didn't mean they were weak. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to become an elder with a 2nd or 3rd level Lord of Heaven cultivation. If they didn't have some ability, they wouldn't be able to gain everyone's respect. There's no need to say more. If he can quickly become stronger, we'll be even happier. No master didn't want their disciple to surpass them and become stronger. The student surpasses the master. This is what gives the master the most face. However, they were a little embarrassed. In fact, they had only taught demonic fire before. They hadn't taught much else. It was a little forced to say that they had taught demonic fire. Is this the new disciple of the two elders? Looks like he will be a trump card for the ascending battle of the divine domain this time. At this time, a few elders walked in from outside. When they saw Yi Tianyun, they all nodded and praised him. Just based on this strength, there was really nothing much to say. If they still said that they were humans now, then they would be short-sighted. To be able to sit in the position of an elder, one had to place one's sights on the places where there were real benefits, rather than internal strife. Although this kind of thing was not uncommon, at least the people here were relatively united and focused on collective interests. That's right. It seems like our god domain will have two trump cards in the ascending battle. The key is that he is our own disciple. Murong Xiao is not a disciple of the heavenly mandate realm. He is just a disciple who was invited to help us. They all shook their heads and saw that the number one disciple of the core hall was far behind Murong Xiao. The gap between the two was like a chasm. They were both 7 refined Earth Lords, but why was the gap so big? Fortunately, Yi Tianyun made them feel very gratified. Being able to produce an outstanding genius, then in the ascending battle of the divine domain, when they got a good ranking, they didn't need to share too many benefits. It could even be said that there was no need to share. As for Murong Xiao, he had to share a lot. Basically, they could only get a small part. It had to be said that this price was extremely high, but in order to not make the heavenly mandate realm look bad, they had to do this. At this time, Nyan Tsiyu rushed over. It was obvious that she was attracted by the news here. She came to the stairs and looked down. When she saw that Yi Tianyun was already running to the finish line, she suddenly laughed and said, "I thought it would take a long time. I just left not long ago, and I'm almost at the bottom. Elder Nyan, how can Yi Tianyun break through so quickly? Is his foundation unstable?" Yu Yanglong saw Nyan Tsiyu and hurried over to ask. Since Nyan Tsiyu brought Yi Tianyun back, there seemed to be a big change. However, this change still made them a little worried. It's okay. Even if his foundation is unstable, isn't he starting to consolidate it now? If he cultivates and consolidates it down there, he will definitely be able to completely consolidate his cultivation before the ascending battle of the divine domain, Nyan Tsiyu said with a smile. That's right, Their eyes continued to turn to Yi Tianyun to see if he could run to the bottom. Although for them, the bottom was not that difficult, for a newcomer, it was definitely not easy. At the same time, as Yi Tianyun quickly ran down, as he got closer and closer to the bottom, he gradually saw something at the bottom. He looked down slightly closer to the stairs and found that there was a huge green gem at the bottom. Isn't this the life crystal of the spirit race? Yi Tianyun was stunned when he saw it. However, upon closer inspection, he realized that it was not a life crystal. Planet core, the core that maintains the flow of life on a planet. Once the core is destroyed, the planet will not be able to continue growing life. It can provide an endless supply of energy. This core is the core of life and has an astonishing vitality. So this is the core of a planet. Yi Tianyun remembered what the evil spirit race had said before. They came to the three realms for the core. He did not know how big the core of the three realms was. If the core was about the same size as this, it would indeed have an astonishing amount of energy. He had read about this before. Not all planets could condense a core. Some planets were relatively small, but they could condense a core. They were very precious. No wonder it's said that this is the best place to cultivate. That's right. It's so close to the origin energy, how can it not be good for cultivation? Yi Tianyun nodded. He finally understood why such harsh conditions were needed. If anyone could come in and absorb it, this core would quickly dry up. Therefore, people could only enter according to their contribution. If they did not have enough contribution points, they would naturally not be able to enter. He looked at the huge core and felt a little more excited. If he could take away a small part of this life crystal, wouldn't it allow the spirit race to prosper rapidly? That life crystal was like a mini version of the core, and it was equivalent to a grain of sand in a desert. Chapter 962. I wonder if I could ask the elders to give me a bit of the core. Yi Tianyun narrowed his eyes and began to think about this core. After all, he had been searching all over the street and could not find a similar life core. If this continued, the situation in the spirit clan would definitely be difficult to reproduce. It was undoubtedly a very good idea to take a piece back for the time being. After all, the life crystals in the three realms did not last long. They could not last more than a few years. Now it seemed that they were about to dry up. When I go out, I'll discuss with them. It's so big, I can cut a small piece out. It's not like I'll die. He thought for a moment and continued to run forward. As he got closer and closer, the pressure increased. This pressure was not caused by the elders of the heavenly mandate divine realm. In fact, it was the energy released by this life core, which made people feel great pressure. Not only was the pressure amazing, but the life force that was pouring in was also amazing. To a large extent, this life force had a kind of substantial energy that was squeezed down from all sides, which was why there was a sense of gravity. Therefore, before being able to withstand this gravity, there was no way to absorb the life force here. Because of this reason, many cultivators who came here to cultivate would first see where their limits were and see if they could absorb the energy. If they could not, they would step back a little until they felt that it was suitable. 96 million experience points, 96,100,000 experience points. When he climbed to more than 96,000 meters, the experience had soared to more than 96 million. According to this situation, if he was the closest, he could basically get as much as 100 million experience points every time. This was without using the crazy experience mode, and he could reach nearly 100 million experience points. Although the experience gained was much less than killing strong cultivators, the experience was stable enough, and the speed of gaining was quite amazing. The key was that it was not limited by his own martial arts, unlike the devouring martial arts, which was a little bit limited. This was to forcefully squeeze in life force. As long as he could withstand this force, he could obtain so much energy. Especially since there were many planets in his body, that was another matter. Absorbing it was like a huge amount of feeling, it was simply amazing. If he could stay here for a few years, it would not be a dream to break through several levels. After all, he could obtain nearly 100 million EXP each time, and it didn't take long for him to obtain so much EXP each time. It was very worthwhile. Elder Nyan is right. This training ground is really good. No wonder there are so many earthly lords and the Lord of Heaven here. This place is of great help to them. Yi Tianyun shook his head. There was a limit. If he was given only a month, it would be too short. Soon, he continued to approach the life core. Finally, he was only a few hundred meters away from the life core. At this time, the pressure was so great that he felt like he couldn't breathe. There are still more than 500 meters left, but the last 500 meters are the most difficult. It should be said that the most important thing is to be able to meditate and stabilize yourself. Yu Yanglong looked at his disciple, his eyes filled with anticipation. Only by being stable could it be considered a success. If he couldn't stabilize it, it could only be considered a failure. Of course, he could slowly adapt to it in the later stages, and it would still be considered a success. He still had a lot of time. However, the difficulty wasn't small. The last 500 meters was rather difficult. The gravity suddenly increased a lot, and the originally gentle life force suddenly became incomparably violent. Whether he could withstand it or not would depend on his own ability. Yes, that is indeed the most difficult. I have seen people rush to the end in one breath, but I have never seen anyone who could sit down for the first time. They all shook their heads. However, if Yi Tianyun failed, he definitely wouldn't feel it was a pity. He would only feel that it was natural. It was already quite amazing to be able to reach this level at such a young age. Many geniuses couldn't reach the end. They would only reach the end after a few more times and their cultivation increased by several levels. Failure here wasn't a disgrace. After all, this was training, not a competition. When Yi Tianyun stepped into the last 500 meters, he immediately felt a terrifying gravity pressing down on him. His knees buckled, and he almost knelt down. Veins popped up on his body. First, his meridians turned green, and then they started to turn red. His entire face turned red. The terrifying gravity made it hard for him to breathe, and his chest felt like it was going to explode. As expected, he has reached his limit. They saw that Yi Tianyun's knees were bent, which meant that he had reached his limit. He probably couldn't even take half a step forward. This was the terror of the last 500 meters. They thought back to the training from a long time ago, and they all thought that they could finish it. When they entered the 500 meters range, that was the real start. It's fine. He just needs to retreat a little and cultivate. According to the reward plan, he can stay in there for more than 2 years, which is enough for him to take his time. Nyan Ciu smiled and said, however, to be able to reach this level of ability is enough for him to be proud. All the elders nodded. If he passed in one go, it would really be strange. Yi Tianyun, who was below, bitterly persevered. He wanted to take another step forward, but he just couldn't take that step. He felt like he couldn't even lift his leg. This gravity is too terrifying. It has completely multiplied. Yi Tianyun looked up at the life core that was within his reach. He was less than 500 meters away. If he could touch it at a closer distance, the effect would definitely be better. But now that he has reached his limit, if he doesn't upgrade it, he will definitely fall back. It seems that I can only upgrade, Dragon God Bloodline. Ding, deducted 500 million EXP, successfully upgraded Dragon God Bloodline to 8th grade. The next level requires 5 billion crazy points. If he didn't upgrade, he definitely wouldn't be able to cultivate here. Sure enough, after the upgrade, the effect immediately improved a lot, so that he can easily stay here to cultivate, and the pressure is a lot lighter. Soon after, he straightened his legs and walked inside step by step. Even if he upgraded his Dragon God Bloodline, he still felt the pressure doubled, and he could barely walk inside. How is this possible? When the elders thought that there was nothing to see, they suddenly saw Yi Tianyun walking inside step by step. Shocking, terrifying, and unbelievable. Everyone's eyes appeared in front of them. It is really too unbelievable. Am I seeing a ghost? Yes, it is really a ghost. I also doubt it. Can he still walk? Chapter 963. Everyone looked at Yi Tianyun as if they had seen a ghost, but Yi Tianyun continued to walk forward and slowly approached the life core. The distance of 500 meters was getting heavier with each step, but it was still within his tolerance range. Finally, He moved forward bit by bit and successfully reached the life core. He was within reach. What a dense life force. Yi Tianyun closed his eyes and carefully felt the surging life force. It was much more effective than his longevity set. If he had any injuries, he could recover instantly. Even a broken arm could be regrown. As for the other internal injuries in his body, he could recover quickly. Many cultivators would more or less have some hidden ailments in their bodies. These were all buried during the cultivation process. Yi Tianyun did not have any internal injuries. His physique was already so strong, and he had the longevity set. It was impossible for him to have any internal injuries. Even if he did, he would recover immediately. When he reached out to touch the core, he immediately felt himself fusing with it. Surging life force surged into his body, and his experience increased explosively. 110 million experience points, 108 million experience points. The experience points hovered around 100 million, which was quite terrifying. The most important thing was that it could flow into the planet in his body, filling it with more life force. He reached out to the core and began to absorb the essence of the core, transferring it to the planet in his body. He wondered if he could absorb the core essence into his body. Immediately, he tried to transfer the life force into the planet bit by bit. When the elders saw that Yi Tianyun was able to cultivate steadily below, they had strange expressions on their faces. They did not know what to feel. It could even be described as terrifying. It was unprecedented for him to succeed in one go. This was the first time they had seen someone succeed in one go. They had never seen such a situation before. Of course, it was not impossible to succeed in one go. One could just find a powerful Lord of Heaven and walk straight to the core area. It might even be easier. However, the significance was different. Yi Tianyun's cultivation was only at the 3rd refinement Earth Lord level. He was much weaker than the Lord of Heaven. This was like a child who was able to carry a bucket of water. He would definitely feel that he was very strong, but if it was an adult trying it, it would be normal. In this time's Divine Realm Ascension War, we should be able to obtain a very good result. They didn't speak too confidently. There were countless powerhouses here, so everything was hard to say. Some invincible geniuses were plotted against and killed along the way, so they naturally did not have a place in the rankings. There were also existences stronger than Murong Xiao. Murong Xiao was very talented, but they did not dare to say that he was a heaven-defying existence. Because some cultivators were reincarnations of powerhouses, who could say for sure? After the elders saw the final result, they all went back to their own matters. He had seen everything here, and there was nothing else to see. The only thing Yi Tianyun could do now was to stay here and cultivate until the time was up. If he could reach a depth of 100,000 meters, he would be able to stay until the Divine Realm's Ascension battle. This kind of treatment even many Lord of Heaven were envious of. Even the elders could not stay for that long. They were afraid that the absorption would be too rapid, and they would absorb all the energy from the core. No matter what, this planet could only be considered a small planet. The condensed core could only be considered small, and it was impossible for it to produce energy endlessly. When Murong Xiao and the others saw Yi Tianyun's situation, there was only shock in their eyes. There was no envy or jealousy. This was because he had relied on true strength to reach the bottom and leave them far behind. There was no jealousy to speak of. If they were surpassed by a little bit, they might be a little unwilling. But when it surpassed a huge range, to the extent that they could not reach, they could only look up to it. Besides looking up to it, there was no other thought. Where did this kid come from? He is so much stronger than me. She clenched her fists, and her beautiful eyes flickered with unwillingness. She was different from other cultivators. She was still arrogant. She had always been regarded as a super genius, but she was surpassed by an unknown young man. How could she be willing to accept this? Originally, she felt that cultivating here was boring. Now that she saw that Yi Tianyun had surpassed her by so much, the motivation in her heart immediately surged, and she wanted to rush forward. Yi Tianyun could not be bothered with their thoughts. He focused on cultivating and absorbing the life energy. Gradually, the planet in his body grew bigger bit by bit, and it became luxuriant. Some spirit herbs began to grow. The spirit herbs that were growing were of a lower grade, but at least they were progressing in an excellent direction. As for the core and whatnot, he still could not condense it. He did not know if he could condense the core. After all, it was an absolutely rare thing. He did not think too much about it. Now, he was simply gaining experience and strengthening the planet's energy in his body. After an unknown period of time, the planet in Yi Tianyun's body suddenly emitted a ray of light. Following that, the planet let out a rumbling sound and began to grow bigger bit by bit. It's starting to improve. Yi Tianyun was elated. He knew that if he wanted the planet to grow bigger, he had to nourish it bit by bit. He needed the nourishment of astral power. It would take a relatively long time for the planet to grow bigger. As for how long it would take, it was temporarily unknown. Different cultivators' situations were different. And now, he was starting to grow bigger. The originally small planet began to grow bigger bit by bit. The speed was not fast. However, when it grew bigger, the land area immediately expanded. It could be said that expanding one circle was equivalent to adding another continent. After expanding a few circles, it finally stopped. The vegetation on it also increased by a level. The original limit of trees was only a few feet tall, but now it suddenly increased to more than 100 feet. Originally, the highest grade of spirit herbs was only grade 1 or 2. Now, it became grade 3 or 4. Now, the planet in his body had officially advanced to grade 2, entering a brand new realm. Immediately, he felt that his astral power capacity and explosive power had greatly increased. Is this the feeling of leveling up to a planet? It's almost the same effect as a breakthrough in cultivation. Yi Tianyun was very surprised. However, he knew that improving his cultivation was much easier than upgrading to a planet. It was much more difficult for a planet. It was not as simple as the usual nourishment. There seems to be something. If Yi Tianyun observed carefully, he realized that a small core had begun to condense in the planet in his body. Core. Chapter 964. Yi Tianyun looked at the core in his body in disbelief. In the information he knew, there was no information about this at all. Either it was not recorded, or no one had succeeded. However, he had succeeded now. This meant that the records were not complete. There must have been others who had also cultivated the core. He did not think that he was an exception. However, it was definitely not easy to cultivate it. Could it be that it's easier to condense it in the body because of the direct absorption of the core? Yi Tianyun thought for a while. He could ask Nyan Tsiyu about this next time. They knew more about this. Especially since they had been to the lowest level before, they must have touched it. Asking them was undoubtedly the best outcome. In that case, I don't need to ask them for the core. I can have it myself. Yi Tianyun was excited. If he continued to cultivate it, the core in his body would definitely become larger. When that time came, he could take out a portion of it and give it to the spirit race. Even if he took away a piece of the core, he definitely could not give him too much. After all, other than him, more elders needed to cultivate here. How could he give it away so easily? Of course, there was also a simple and crude method. That was to pull his loved ones in the 3 realms into the planet in his body. After the planet in his body expanded, its surface area was definitely larger than the 3 realms. This was the terrifying power of cultivation. It could even accommodate such a large planet. This was something that Fan Yu could not have imagined. This was just a thought. If he really transferred those people into the planet in his body, it would undoubtedly be extremely dangerous. If he encountered any danger one day, they would all be in danger. If any energy fluctuations entered his body, it would be extremely dangerous. No matter what, this is a good thing. He did not stand on ceremony. Since the other party had said so, he did not mind even if he sucked this core dry. At most, he would obtain a better ranking in the Divine Domain Battle of Ascension. Immediately, he meditated and began to absorb frantically. However, the advancement of the planet did not increase his absorption rate. He still maintained his original state. He maintained this state and continued to absorb. The accumulated experience increased and he was about to break through. After absorbing for so long, not only did his planet realm improve, but his cultivation level was also about to break through. Not long after absorbing for a month or so, a pleasant voice sounded. Congratulations to player Yi Tianyun for having enough experience to level up. Do you want to level up to the 4th refinement Earth Monarch, or level up to the Lord of Heaven? Level up to the Lord of Heaven, great gift pack will be invalid. Seeing that he still had a choice, he would definitely not upgrade his cultivation to the Lord of Heaven at this level. Not only would he lose the big gift bag, but his cultivation would also be much weaker. Breakthrough to the 4th refinement Earth Monarch realm. He didn't think too much and directly chose to raise his cultivation to the 4th refinement Earth Monarch realm without thinking about anything else. Congratulations to player Yi Tianyun for successfully breaking through to the 4th refinement Earth Monarch. He broke through. Yi Tianyun hurriedly raised his head to look at the sky. As long as he broke through to the 4th refinement of the Earth Monarch realm, he would have to accept the tempering of the heavenly tribulation. He had never experienced a heavenly tribulation before, so he didn't know how powerful it was. In short, there was no mistake in being on guard. Sure enough, the moment he broke through to the 4th refinement Earth Monarch, balls of black tribulation cloud immediately appeared above his head. Thick lightning flashed on top of it, and there were even flames rolling on top of it. When this happened, one cultivator after another suddenly woke up from their meditation and hurriedly looked over. This kid is breaking through now, is there a mistake? Shouldn't he suppress his cultivation before breaking through? I feel that it's not bad to break through here. After all, the life force here is dense and can quickly heal. They looked at Yi Tianyun, wanting to see how Yi Tianyun would break through. If he couldn't withstand the heavenly tribulation, the result would be death. Die, hurry up and die. When Yuan Tianyu saw Yi Tianyun experiencing the heavenly tribulation, he could not help but curse out loud. He did not care about any benefits, he only wanted his competitors to die quickly. He did not know who Yi Tianyun was. He had been cultivating here all this time, so he did not know what was happening outside. However, he felt that there was a strong sense of enmity. If he could eliminate an enemy, it would definitely be a good thing. When the guards above saw the situation, they quickly went to inform Nyan Ciu. Before Nyan Ciu left, she had instructed these guards to immediately inform her if Yi Tianyun broke through here. So this is the heavenly tribulation, it does look powerful. Yi Tianyun looked up at the black clouds above his head. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Heavenly tribulation possesses shocking tribulation lightning and tribulation fire. The beginner level heavenly tribulation must withstand the dual test of tribulation lightning and tribulation fire. Initial estimation of combat power is 80,000 star power, the highest possible is 200,000 star power. To face such tribulation fire and tribulation lightning as a 4th refinement Earth Monarch, the difficulty was not small, especially when the highest was 200,000 star power. If it was a weaker Earth Monarch, they would definitely be killed under this fierce attack. But to him, this was too easy. The highest was 200,000 star power. Not to mention 200,000 star power, he would not even be afraid of 2 million star power. Unfortunately, it is of no use to me at all. Yi Tianyun stomped on the ground and directly faced the heavenly tribulation. Many cultivators were stunned when they saw Lin Fan charging forward like that. Their expressions were strange. Is he courting death? Even with the support of vitality, it is not that easy to recover. That's right. If the heavenly tribulation is enraged, it can instantly kill a person. All of them thought of the heavenly tribulation they had withstood before, and no one dared to recklessly charge forward as that would anger the heavenly tribulation. Seems like he thinks he is invincible. If he angers the heavenly tribulation, the power will not be simple. Yuan Tianyu looked at him with a venomous gaze and cursed in his heart. As expected, when Yi Tianyun faced the heavenly tribulation, the tribulation cloud started to rumble, and its power increased greatly. From the initial 80,000 star power, it suddenly increased to more than 400,000 star power. This was a sign that it was enraged. If he had endured it obediently, the heavenly tribulation would not have such a powerful effect. If he had approached it, it would be different. It was as if his authority was being challenged. After his authority was challenged, the power would increase greatly, reaching a terrifying level. Regardless of whether it was the heavenly tribulation of the fourth refinement of the earth monarch or the later heavenly tribulations, it was the same. If one wanted to forcefully break through the tribulation clouds, there would only be one outcome: the might would be doubled or even multiplied by several times, reaching a terrifying degree. But that was what Yi Tianyun did. He did not want to delay, and more importantly, he wanted to feel the effects of the heavenly tribulation. Chapter 965. Boom. A tribulation thunder struck down from the sky, drawing a dazzling white light in the air and striking directly at Yi Tianyun. This heavenly thunder had a combat power of 410,000 astral power points. It was so powerful that it was enough to turn an ordinary Earth Lord into charcoal. Get lost. Yi Tianyun flicked his hand and the heavenly thunder was deflected into countless starlight spots. Like fireworks, they scattered in the air, looking rather beautiful. The terrifying heavenly thunder was shattered just like that with a flick of his hand. The cultivators who were watching were dumbfounded. Following that, a tribulation fire turned into a fire dragon and coiled around him, wanting to destroy the person who challenged the authority. His combat power increased instead of decreasing, reaching 450,000 astral power point. How dare you be so arrogant in front of me with these flames? Yi Tianyun laughed and slapped again. Bang! The flames that resembled a fire dragon were deflected and turned into sparks that drifted away. It was even more beautiful than the lightning. After deflecting 2 attacks, he charged to the tribulation cloud and reached out to cover it. Boom! A violent force exploded in the center of the tribulation cloud, and the tribulation cloud, which was filled with violent force, was deflected just like that. The tribulation cloud dissipated quickly. At the same time, a ray of light shrouded Yi Tianyun, infusing him with new energy. Once he passed the heavens tribulation, he would receive benefits. Immediately after, Yi Tianyun was bathed in the energy and his body absorbed it continuously. You have sensed the power of the heavens tribulation. Do you want to absorb it into your body? Absorb. At this moment, a choice appeared. Yi Tianyun absorbed the power of the heavens tribulation without hesitation. Anyway, it wouldn't do him any harm. Although there was no record of it, it seemed that breaking the tribulation cloud would bring him many benefits. Ding! Successfully absorbed the power of the heavens tribulation. Obtained the power of the heavens tribulation. Power of the heavens tribulation, able to release the power of the heavens tribulation to kill the enemy. The power increases as the number of heavens tribulations endured. Note: only after devouring the 9th refinement's heavenly tribulation can it be considered as truly transforming it into your own power. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. He didn't think that there would be such an effect. However, the difficulty of obtaining it was a little high. At the very least, he had to devour the 9th earthly monarch heavenly tribulation before it could be considered his own strength. This meant that he had to break through to the level of the Lord of Heaven to truly possess it. After all, reaching the 9th refinement of Earthlord was not perfect. He still lacked the 9th refinement of Heaven's tribulation to be considered complete. It was no wonder that there were no records of it. The difficulty was simply too great. This meant that he had to break the tribulation cloud every time to reach this level. Normally, those who passed the heavenly tribulation would not receive such a reward. At most, some energy would descend and strengthen their physique. It's really good stuff, but it's a bit difficult. Yi Tianyun sat down again and continued to cultivate. The onlookers were dumbfounded, but it was reasonable. If Yi Tianyun could get to the bottom level, it would not be a problem for him to destroy the tribulation cloud with his own strength. Yuan Tianyu's curse had no effect. Yi Tianyun still passed it easily. This made him extremely jealous. When his cultivation was at the same level as Yi Tianyun, he couldn't do this. It could be said that he didn't even dare to do this. If he angered the heavenly tribulation, he would be the one to die. Now, Yi Tianyun did it. His performance was shocking. It made him wonder if Murong Xiao had taken a fancy to Yi Tianyun. In reality, he was thinking too much. Murong Xiao just pouted and said unhappily, "Why are you so arrogant? I can also do this." She stood up and started to jog down. Even if she caught up now, she wouldn't be able to fill the gap between the two of them. She just wanted to prove that she could also go down to the bottom level. Previously, she felt that cultivation was boring. Now, she had some motivation. Yi Tianyun played a certain role. Not long after, Nyan Tsiu hurried over. When she came to the side and looked down, she saw that Yi Tianyun was calmly cultivating there. She looked at the guard in confusion and asked, "What's the situation? Didn't they say that he was about to break through? This heavenly tribulation has been destroyed by young Master Yi with one punch." The guard smiled bitterly. Destroyed with one punch. Nyan Tsiu was shocked. Then, she felt relieved. Okay, it seems that this is not difficult for him. But to be able to destroy the tribulation cloud, this is a lot of benefits for him. She was very satisfied with Yi Tianyun's performance. It was just that she worried for nothing. She even rushed over. In the end, she realized that there was no need to worry so much. Why would she need to worry about an existence with such overwhelming power? Okay, if you want to break through again next time, tell me. After Nyan Tsiu said that, she turned and left. Next time. The guard looked weird. He turned to look at Yi Tianyun, who was meditating below, and wondered, he just broke through, is there enough time for him to break through? He didn't believe that Yi Tianyun could break through again in just 2 or 3 years. Even if he is a genius, it will take a long time to break through to the next level, right? Nyan Tsiu also thought so, until she met Yi Tianyun. Yi Tianyun still maintained the state of full absorption. He began to absorb desperately. He strives to break through to the 5th refining Lord of Heaven or the 6th refining Lord of Heaven before participating in the divine realm ascending battle. Time passed quickly, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. In a blink of an eye, a year has passed. He is still absorbing, but his level still hasn't increased. The amount of experience required is too much, and it takes a lot of time to absorb. Unless he uses crazy experience mode, but that consumes too much crazy point. He has enough time now, and he is not in a hurry. The most important thing is to strengthen the core in his body. In the past year, the core has become a lot bigger, but compared to the life core in front of him, the gap is still too amazing. Like a grain of sand in the desert, no, it should be said that it evolved to the level of a small handful of sand in the desert. Murong Xiao also quickly approached this side during this time. There are only a few people who can stay here and cultivate. Jiyu Yanlong and the others left early, they don't have time to stay here. If they can, they also want to stay here. From the beginning, there are only 3 people who can stay here. The rest changed batch after batch, and when they see the situation on Yi Tianyun's side, they are extremely shocked. Ding, congratulations to player Yi Tianyun, enough experience to break through to the 5th refining Earth Monarch, do you want to level up? The system very appropriately reminded, if you are not prepared, you don't have to rush to level up. Level up. Yi Tianyun chose to level up again without thinking. Chapter 966. After Yi Tianyun leveled up, the tribulation cloud surged in from all directions again. This time, it immediately alarmed the surrounding cultivators, including Yuan Tianyu and Murong Xiao. What's going on? This kid broke through to the 5th refinement Earth Lord so quickly? Yuan Tianyu was so shocked that he almost vomited blood. It had only been a year and Yi Tianyun was going to undergo tribulation. They all thought that Yi Tianyun was the same as ordinary cultivators. He could only advance after successfully passing the tribulation. This had always been the most basic rule and no one could change it. However, Yi Tianyun changed this situation. He first broke through successfully and then went to resist the tribulation cloud. This meant that even if he didn't have a powerful cultivation technique, he would still have an advantage over other cultivators. Murong Xiao was also very surprised by Yi Tianyun's breakthrough. After all, it didn't take long. Although his cultivation was lower than theirs, this breakthrough speed was really unprecedented. In such a short period of time, he ushered in another breakthrough. When the guard above saw this, his eyes widened. After a moment, he reacted and hurriedly took out the communication token to inform Nyan Tsiu to rush over. Previously, he didn't believe that Yi Tianyun could break through. Now, he finally believed that he could continue to break through to another level. Yi Tianyun broke through again and many of the guards who had seen Yi Tianyun's situation before were shocked. Yi Tianyun ignored them. When the tribulation cloud was condensed, he quickly rushed towards the tribulation cloud. Without exception, the tribulation lightning and tribulation fire merged at the same time and struck down from the sky. The power instantly soared to the level of almost 1,000,000. Compared to the first time he endured the tribulation, it was double. This kind of power was terrifying. It was no wonder that no one dared to anger the tribulation cloud. If one wanted to break through it easily, they had to keep their cultivation suppressed and build a solid foundation before they dared to do so. Otherwise, everything would be finished when the tribulation lightning struck. Get lost. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed. Just like that, he simply used his fist to smash it, easily scattering the combined attack of tribulation lightning and tribulation fire. Just like before, brilliant flames burst out in the air. It was very beautiful. After destroying the fusion of tribulation lightning and tribulation fire with one punch, he continued forward and smashed the tribulation cloud with another punch. The result was the same as the first time he broke the tribulation cloud. After being punched, the tribulation cloud quickly dispersed, which made everyone feel a little sorry for it. Under normal circumstances, the tribulation cloud could only be considered to have passed the tribulation successfully after bombarding for at least 2 hours. If he blew it up with a single punch, it would be over immediately. Not only was he fast, but he was also not afraid of being disturbed. Under normal circumstances, if someone interfered with the tribulation, there was a possibility of failure. This was what sinister people would do. If they wanted to kill their enemies, interfering with their tribulation was the best choice. Of course, it was extremely undesirable to help break the tribulation cloud. Instead, they would die first. If there was an interference, there wouldn't be such a problem. To put it bluntly, if they were to resist the tribulation, both themselves and the outsiders would be attacked by a terrifying power. However, outsiders were even more terrifying. Unless their cultivation was heaven-defying, no one would dare to help withstand the tribulation. For example, the Lord of Heaven wouldn't be able to help with the heavenly tribulation of the fourth refinement Earth Lord. At least, the Lord of Heaven would be able to help. As one's cultivation increased, even a stronger God-Lord cultivator wouldn't be able to withstand it. Only an expert of a higher level would be able to do it. Because of this, Nyan Ciu had previously said that when Yi Tianyun was about to break through, he must look for her to help protect him. If someone interfered, it would undoubtedly be very dangerous. Of course, no one dared to disturb him here. If they were discovered, they would definitely die. Now that Yi Tianyun broke the tribulation cloud, he quickly sat down and absorbed the energy that descended. He easily broke through to the fifth refinement Earth Lord and his cultivation was flying. It ended just like that. Many guards opened their mouths wide and couldn't close them. It was fine that the first tribulation cloud was easily broken, but the second tribulation cloud was also broken. It meant how stable one's foundation was. One could even say that it was terrifyingly strong. Very quickly, Nyan Ciu rushed over. When she saw that the situation had calmed down, she was startled. It was easily broken again. Elder Nyan, you are right. It was indeed like that. He broke it with one punch. The guards smiled bitterly and felt that they had lived their lives for nothing. They couldn't be compared at all. It seems like I don't need to help protect him. I wonder if he will be able to break through in the following period of time? Nyan Ciu had some expectations for Yi Tianyun. There wasn't much time left, just less than 2 years. At first, it was said that there was less than 5 years, but in reality, there was only 2 to 3 years. The journey would take a lot of time and there would be other preparation time. Thus, the time left wasn't long and there were less than 2 years left. He can still break through? The guards swallowed their saliva. They didn't believe it. Could he still break through? If he continued to break through, he would be the 6th refinement Earth Lord. Who knew if he would be able to break through the tribulation cloud? Everyone looked at Yi Tianyun. They didn't know if it was like what Nyan Ciu said, that he would be able to break through in the remaining time. The surrounding situation calmed down very quickly. Yi Tianyun acted like he didn't feel anything and continued to cultivate below. He wasn't satisfied and felt that he could continue to break through. The remaining time was enough for him to break through and reach the 6th refinement Earthlord cultivation. Time passed quickly. Yi Tianyun continued to cultivate, and in the blink of an eye, half a year passed. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and immediately rushed up from where he was. It was difficult to fly here. Under the terrifying gravity, it was quite difficult to fly, unless one left this region. However, one could still fly. What's going on? Murong Xiao stood up. She had finally caught up with great difficulty, and Yi Tianyun was going to leave. Yi Tianyun ignored her and ran forward quickly. His speed became faster and faster, and in the blink of an eye, he ran up. When he reached the back, he directly flew upwards. Not long after, he disappeared from everyone's sight. They had no idea what was going on. What's going on with him? Everyone was dumbfounded, including the guards. They didn't know what happened to Yi Tianyun and why he left in a hurry. Young Master Yi, wait a moment. Where are you going? After the guard reacted, he quickly chased after Yi Tianyun and wanted to ask where he was going. Nyan Ci Yu had told him that if Yi Tianyun left, he had to ask clearly. After all, there wasn't much time left until the Ascension Battle of the God Realm. He definitely couldn't run around. But when he went out, he realized that the outside was empty. He didn't know where everyone went. What's going on? He left so quickly. It can't be, right? He felt that it was inconceivable. Even if it was the Lord of Heaven level, it was impossible for him to disappear in this region so quickly, right? The problem was that Yi Tianyun didn't fly. He used the transfer divine stone and chose to return to the 3 realms. Because the array set up by the 3 realms was touched, it meant that there was an enemy attack. Chapter 967. The situation in the 3 realms was very harmonious. Because of Yi Tianyun's rule, there were very few wars in the 3 realms. On the contrary, it had always been a tradition, which was to select geniuses. Once the top geniuses were selected, they would be nurtured with more resources. This was for the prosperity of the 3 realms, and it was necessary to do so. It was not a good thing to have internal strife. Therefore, the situation has been in a positive state. With the support of a large number of resources, there were several Saint King Peak stage powerhouses, and even one God King stage powerhouse. Of course, the God King stage powerhouse didn't come from other divine kingdoms, but the ancient Ming divine kingdom's powerhouses. Therefore, there was no chaos in the 3 realms, and the situation became more stable. If it had been any other divine nation, it might have fallen into chaos. After all, everyone had different ideas. Some people were more violent and liked to dominate the world. They thought that they were invincible, and they didn't want to accept the rule of the Heavenly Clouds Empire. Although the Heavenly Clouds Empire didn't intervene, they always felt that they were suppressed. Of course, some people were not convinced. However, the appearance of a God King could only be from a force that had a relationship with Yi Tianyun. After all, only a powerful force could have a priority to have a God King. The ancient Ming Divine Kingdom, Fengtian Divine Kingdom, and the others had a good relationship with him. Therefore, they all followed the Heavenly Clouds Empire's lead and wouldn't replace it. They believed that Yi Tianyun would come back. If anyone had a different idea, once Yi Tianyun came back, everything would be over. At the same time, there was such a discussion in the ancient Ming Divine Tower. Patriarch, you have broken through to the Divine King stage. Divine King Tianyun hasn't come back for a long time. Maybe he has already. The elder next to him hesitated. After thinking for a while, he said firmly, "Why don't you choose to rule the entire 3 realms? It will be of great benefit to our divine kingdom of Gumming. Who would dare to disobey a God King stage powerhouse?" When their patriarch had a breakthrough, many elders' ambitions began to grow. What nonsense are you talking about? At this time, a beautiful figure stood up from the side and glared at them. God King Tianyun has helped us a lot. Do you want to overthrow the peace that we have always had? She was Fan Shueshuan, the one whom Yi Tianyun had helped before. She had made a huge breakthrough in her cultivation. "Princess, it's not like that," they said awkwardly, "we're just suggesting it. After all, the Heavenly Cloud Divine King has been gone for so long. Maybe he's the same as the heaven-creating Divine King." "I won't. Fan Shueshuan glared at them and said, Divine King Skycloud isn't like the others. He will definitely come back. Furthermore, the danger is not over yet. It will definitely come back to protect us. Many elders shook their heads. Ancient Underworld Divine King had said the same thing before he left. But when the battle with the evil spirit race really broke out, did they return? He had never returned. It had been thousands of years, and he had never returned. It wasn't that they didn't believe in Yi Tianyun, but with an example in front of them, how could they believe it? That's enough. There's no need to talk about this anymore. We just need to properly manage the ancient underworld divine pagoda. As for the rest, it's not within our scope of management. If the heavenly cloud divine nation is in trouble, we will stand up and help. It's that simple. The patriarch looked at them and said in a deep voice, whether they will decline in the future or not has nothing to do with us. But at least I'm still alive, so I won't let others intervene in this matter. Yes, they could only nod. After all, the power was not in their hands. Except for the ancient underworld divine pagoda, other forces also had the same idea. They had been calm for a long time. Just when they thought that everything would continue like this, the sky suddenly turned dark, and a terrible force pressed down from the sky. The thick shield outside was almost penetrated. The cultivators inside were all shocked and rushed out of the houses in a hurry. Looking up at the sky, they found that there were several spirit ships in the sky, and there were densely packed evil spirit race outside, crazily attacking the shield. Shi Shueyun and the others came out of the imperial capital one after another. When they saw the situation above, their expressions changed. They quickly crushed the jade pendants in their hands and began to prepare for war. They had been preparing for war for a long time, and everything was just to defend their own territory. The situation of the ancient underworld divine pagoda was the same. It suddenly started to devour, which meant that someone had broken into the area of the ancient underworld divine pagoda. One by one, they rushed out and found that the outside was already occupied by the evil spirit race. Fan Hongda quickly rushed out, passed through the shield, and easily killed a group of Saint King stage evil spirit race outside. At the same time, he saw the scene outside clearly. In addition to the 3 spirit ships, there were many evil spirit race flying in the sky. Most of them were Saint King stage evil spirit race, followed by God King stage evil spirit race. The number of these evil spirit race was amazing, and it felt like a city had been emptied. At a glance, there were at least tens of thousands of Saint King stage evil spirit race, and as for God King stage evil spirit race, there were hundreds of God King stage evil spirit race. In addition, Fan Hongda could feel a terrifying strength emanating from the 3 spirit ships. Just by sensing it, he felt his scalp tingle. It's too terrible. What kind of power is this? Fan Hongda's heart trembled. Even if he was at the first stage God King stage evil spirit race, his whole body trembled when facing so much power. The gap between the two was too big. Any one of them could easily crush him. Some people even said that they wanted to unify the 3 realms. Now, it seemed that it was a joke. The other party casually sent out an existence that could crush him. Unifying the 3 realms was just a bubble. No wonder the God Kings chose to leave. Oh, I didn't expect that there would be a star monarch powerhouse in this corner. But that's not right. I heard that there should be a Lord of Heaven here. Otherwise, how could so many people we sent out be annihilated? Immediately, a figure walked out of the spirit ship. His whole body was releasing a terrible cultivation, and he had 12 arms on his back. However, his cultivation was not at the Star Monarch or Earth Monarch level, but the cultivation of the Lord of Heaven. 2 other Lord of Heaven powerhouses also walked out of the other 2 spirit ships. Their eyes were full of contempt. The evil spirit race actually sent out a large group of powerhouses and 3 Lord of Heaven for the 3 realms. This was no longer like occupying the 3 realms. It felt like they were going to flatten the 3 realms. This was too extravagant. I'm not too sure about this. They just want to occupy the 3 realms. It's on the way anyway. There's a good planet nearby. If they didn't want to occupy it, why would they send out so many people? These trash humans can be easily dealt with. None of them put Fan Hongda in their eyes. In their eyes, he was just like trash. Chapter 968. The three Lord of Heaven waved their hands and gestured for their subordinates to attack. A large group of God King and Saint King experts. They were Star Lords. As for Saint King experts, they were not called Saint Kings in the divine realm, but mortal lords. This meant that they were still in the category of ordinary strength. They did not have the power of the stars. Of course, they were mortal lords. In an instant, a large group of experts pounced down, and with a ferocious pressure, the barrier was crushed like paper paste. Yi Tianyun's protective shield, including the one set up by the three great God Kings, were all crushed by the pressure. What 10 stars? What ancient Ming divine pagoda? At most, they could kill some mortal lords or ordinary star lords. Because there were too many of them, and with the support of the three Lord of Heaven, the protective shield was immediately crushed. Fan Hongda's back was drenched in cold sweat. He wanted to kill the other enemies, but he found that he could not move at all. His body was locked in place, and he could not move at all. An invisible force surrounded his body, making him feel that he could not move at all. As long as the other side squeezed gently, he would be easily crushed. What do you want to do? If you want to kill me, then kill me. Don't talk nonsense. Fan Hongda was not afraid of death, but he felt sad. He had cultivated for so many years, thinking that breaking through to the God King stage would make the three realms safer. Now, it seemed that it was all nonsense. Even if there were 4 or 5 more God Kings, it would be like trying to put out a burning cart of firewood with a cup of water. Kill you? Of course not. We want to see what's going on here. We sent so many people here, and they all died. You should know that they are quite strong. Even if they are a group of trash, they should not die without knowing why. Heavenly Lord Sokya Soul looked at him coldly and opened his mouth slightly, revealing his terrifying white teeth. That's true. Let's see if there are other forces down there. Maybe there are other Lord of Heaven hiding in some corner, or a stronger Earth Lord. Otherwise, how could they have dealt with our people so easily? The Lord of Heaven did not care much about what was going on here. He was not interested in facing some ants. I checked earlier. The strongest person in this small world is this star venerate before me. Sokya I Lord of Heaven, who had an eye on his forehead, slowly opened his eyes. It was as if nothing could escape the detection of the spiritual eye on his forehead. The three of them were the Sakyamuni brothers, the three Lord of Heaven, killing machines that belonged to the evil spirit race. This time, they felt that they had made a mountain out of a molehill. A small planet required the three of them to make a move. This made them very unhappy and felt that they had been underestimated. However, they had no other choice. Their boss had asked them to come over, so they could only follow orders. The strongest is the Star Lord. They frowned. If the Star Lord was the strongest, it was impossible for all the people sent out to be annihilated. Speak. Who is your helper? Which force is he from? They looked at Fan Hongda, waiting for him to explain the situation. I don't know, Fan Hongda said solemnly. You don't know? Sokya Soul's eyes were ice cold as he grinned and said, of course, we don't mind using a soul search to search all your memories and see what you are thinking. They were not worried that Fan Hongda would not say anything. As long as they used a soul search, they could easily deal with him. Fan Hongda began to struggle. He couldn't even choose to self-destruct. His body was completely imprisoned. Not only could he not escape, he couldn't even choose to commit suicide. He was worried that all his memories would be dug out. This would undoubtedly expose Yi Tianyun's situation. Even if he died, Yi Tianyun would not be a problem. At least with Yi Tianyun around, they still had hope of revenge. He believed that if the other party invaded, this place would definitely be destroyed. Perhaps it would be devoured, and not a single one would be left alive. If Yi Tianyun and the others were still alive, then there would at least be hope. Do you think it's possible to commit suicide? They sneered. They felt that Fan Hongda was overestimating himself and wanted to commit suicide in front of them. If he could commit suicide in front of them, then they would really have no face left. Fan Hongda gritted his teeth. He could only watch helplessly as the other party used a soul search on him. As for biting his tongue to commit suicide, it was meaningless for someone at his level. Can't I escape the fate of being destroyed? Fan Hongda felt very sad. He had paid such a high price to defend this place, but in the end, it was still going to end. Not only was the situation above controlled, but the situation below was also quickly suppressed. A large number of Saint King Stage and God King Stage powerhouses were suppressing them. How could they resist? When Shi Xueyun and the others were ready, suddenly, an eagle flew out from the bottom of the heavenly cloud divine kingdom and rushed directly towards the evil spirit race. When everyone saw this eagle, they were taken aback. Usually, this eagle didn't move at all. It just ate and slept, and when it woke up, it would eat again. It never listened to anyone's orders, not even Shi Xueyun. Because it was left by Yi Tianyun, no one paid attention to it, and no one dared to interfere. But at this moment, it suddenly rushed up and didn't listen to anyone's orders. It seemed like it was going to die. What's going on with this giant eagle? Shi Xueyun and the others were puzzled. When the giant hawk pounced forward, the evil spirit race did not even look at it. He grabbed the giant hawk and stuffed it into his mouth, easily swallowing it. It's dead. They thought that the giant eagle would do something, but it was killed just like that. Everything happened so fast that no one knew what happened. Kill. Shi Xueyun's eyes were cold. Her cultivation had broken through to the Saint King Stage, so she had a chance of winning against a Saint King Stage powerhouse. At the same time, a group of demon beasts rushed up madly. These were all Yi Tianyun's pets. However, the highest cultivation was at the peak of the Saint King Stage. Because the distance was too far, they couldn't get experience when Yi Tianyun killed them. Obviously, there was a distance limit. If there was no limit, these pets would have broken through to the Earth Monarch stage. Haha, these are some low-level demon beasts, but they can still be eaten. These evil spirit races laughed loudly, grabbed the pets and stuffed them into their mouths, eating them very sweetly. They were completely abused, and they didn't even have the strength to fight back. Shio. A cold light cut through the sky, and a Saint King Stage evil spirit race person was easily cut in half. Shi Xueyun's white clothes fluttered gently, and her bulging belly could be seen. It has been several years, but she didn't give birth to a child. She had been pregnant for too long. However, in the face of this battle, she could only come out and fight. No one could hide, even if someone told her to hide, she must fight. This woman eat her. An evil spirit race demon god on the side looked at her coldly, and opened his huge mouth to swallow her. Shi Xueyun's face changed, and she quickly waved her sword several times, and the ultimate sword light slashed on his body, but nothing happened. The gap in cultivation was too big, and skills alone couldn't make up for it. Child, it seems that we won't be able to see your father come back. Shi Xueyun bit her lips and resolutely waved her sword. She knew that it was useless to escape. The gap in cultivation was too big, and there was no way to escape. We will see him. A familiar figure suddenly appeared in the sky. That sturdy and reliable figure appeared in everyone's line of sight. Chapter 969. The familiar figure did not look tall and sturdy, but it was like a majestic mountain that stood in front of everyone, blocking any disaster. Tianyun, Shi Xueyun's eyes were filled with tears of joy. The original despair was replaced by tears of joy. Who would have thought that Yi Tianyun would still rush back at such a critical moment, as if he had predicted danger and quickly rushed over from outside? Of course, Yi Tianyun did not rush back because he had predicted danger, but because he had some tricks up his sleeves. The first was the restriction outside. Once it was destroyed, it would notify him. Obviously, this had failed. He did not even feel anything when it was destroyed. The distance was too far. He did not even feel anything when it was destroyed. As there was no way to test it, he prepared a second method, which was pet. Once the pets died, he would definitely know. This was because he had a pet status bar. Once they died, it would immediately be displayed. They could not enjoy experience points, but if they died, they would definitely immediately send a message. The main reason for these two methods was because they did not have enough ability to carve high-grade jade pendants. If there was a problem, they would still be able to send a message. This was just like how the evil spirit race would know after demon god Long Yu and the others died. Thus, the giant eagle immediately rushed up and chose to commit suicide. This was the order that Yi Tianyun had given. Although it was sacrificing the pet, this was the second method. The result was obvious. He immediately felt it in the life god palace, allowing him to quickly rush up from the lowest point and spend a little time. Actually, he could be faster, which was to disappear on the spot. However, it would undoubtedly attract everyone's attention. This was not a good method. Of course, if it took a long time to go up, he would definitely use the teleportation god's stone immediately. With a human life at stake, everything else had to be put aside. Fortunately, it did not take too long to go up. In less than half a minute, he rushed up in one go. From the looks of it, the time was very reasonable. It was not too slow, nor too fast. It was just enough to catch up. "I'm back, leave it to me." Yi Tianyun waved his hand lightly, and Shishuayun was sent down by this energy, preventing her from being affected. Die. The evil spirit race demon god could not be bothered with the person who had suddenly appeared. As long as he was not of the same race, they would not hesitate to devour him. Scram! Yi Tianyun extended his hand and flicked it, releasing a formless energy. The pouncing evil spirit race immediately turned into a pile of blood mist and dissipated in the air. The evil spirit race members at the side were all dumbfounded. This was a demon god, a god king, which was equivalent to a star venerate. How could it be killed so easily? Equip the sword saint set. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed, and he instantly equipped the sword saint set. He didn't need a powerful set, just the sword saint set was enough. Most of the weapons here were at the divine artifact level, and that was just a few of them. Most of them were at the sacred artifact level, so the sacred sword set was enough. Immediately after, tens of thousands of holy artifacts floated in the air. He aimed at the evil spirit race rankers who were pouncing down and lightly pointed, "Kill," swish swish swish. The attacks that were like a rain of swords pierced through the air. In the blink of an eye, a large number of evil spirit race experts were easily killed, turning into piles of experience. His harvest was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, many evil spirit race experts were killed. Due to the significant increase in his cultivation, there was an amazing breakthrough in his control. Even if it was only at the sacred artifact level, it was easy for him to deal with demon gods. With the help of many EXP cards, Yi Tianyun's experience continued to rise. Ding! Successfully killed evil spirit race expert, Star Lord 2nd level, gained 365. 8 billion EXP, 7. 8 million crazy points, 100,000 SPS obtained evil spirit soul, evil spirit blood. Ding! Successfully killed evil spirit race expert, Star Lord 3rd level, gained. Yi Tianyun's experience increased explosively, which made him feel very satisfied. Sure enough, only by killing evil spirit race experts can I gain experience faster. Yi Tianyun gained a lot of EXP in the life temple, but it was not enough to kill so many evil spirit race experts. With the help of many EXP cards, there was an amazing explosive effect. Of course, there were not so many evil spirit race experts for him to kill at every moment. Therefore, in the overall situation, it was better to cultivate in the life core. Moreover, the life core could also increase the power of the planets in his body. Run! Run! When the evil spirit race experts saw Yi Tianyun's killing intent, they turned around and fled, seeking help from the Lord of Heaven. But what greeted them was thousands of swords piercing their heart. Yi Tianyun will not let any of them go, he will make them stay here, he will not let them escape. Yi Tianyun killed all the evil spirit race experts along the way, and soon, he rushed out of the 3 realms. When he saw the 3 Lord of Heaven outside, he stretched out his hand, and a violent energy quickly wrapped around Fan Hongda and dragged him over. Sokya's eyes narrowed, his imprisonment actually failed, and he was forcibly dragged over by the other party. What's going on? There is another Earth Lord. Sokya's eyes shrunk, he just searched inside and out, but he didn't find any trace of Yi Tianyun, so he was surprised that Yi Tianyun suddenly appeared. Sokya's eyes, it seems like your eyes are a bit blurry, Sokya Dragon teased, such a big fish, he actually could not detect it. 3 Lord of Heaven, I have to say, the evil spirit race really thinks highly of our 3 realms. Yi Tianyun sized up the 3 Lord of Heaven, their cultivations were all around the 1st and 2nd levels of the Lord of Heaven. In fact, The first and second levels of the Lord of Heaven could be very powerful, but their highest level was the seventh level of the Earth Lord. It was really not enough for him. Without an Earth Lord above the eighth level, there was really no meaning in breaking through. However, this was based on him breaking through several levels. If he did not leave this place to go to the divine realm, the three Lord of Heaven would definitely die. Now it was different. Not only did he have the cultivation of the fifth level of the Earth Lord, he also had the 64 times crazy mode. If not me, who else? Indeed, we all feel that we have overestimated you, three Lord of Heaven and a large group of experts. Do you think you are worthy? Sokia Soul laughed disdainfully. Even if we do not make a move, the others are enough to trample you all. That is true. Yi Tianyun stretched out his hand and smiled. Come over here. In the next moment, a figure appeared out of thin air. It was Lei Zhengyu from before. When he first appeared, he was still confused. He did not know what was going on. He just appeared here. Hey, boss Yi. When Lei Zhengyu saw Yi Tianyun, he felt very puzzled. Yi Tianyun looked for him, of course, because he needed help. Lei Zhengyu's cultivation was not weak. He could help him deal with a group of people. Since he was accepted as a god general, he was not worried that Lei Zhengyu would betray him. Chapter 970. Brother Lei, help me get rid of these guys, but not in this area, but in the area below. Yi Tianyun was referring to the netherworld. With his cultivation, getting rid of them would not be a problem. Especially with the mid-grade reincarnation level weapon he had given him, he would definitely be able to crush these demon gods. So it's the trash of the evil spirit race, no problem. Lei Zhengyu did not know what was going on when he was summoned, but since Yi Tianyun had said so, he would not delay at all, especially since he knew the evil spirit race. In the next moment, Lei Zhengyu flew towards the netherworld, turned into a bolt of lightning, and disappeared in front of everyone. Following that, a pitch-black light chased after him. Its speed was several times faster than Lei Zhengyu's. However, Yi Tianyun's figure was even faster. In the blink of an eye, he flashed in front of the attack, stretched out his hand, and smacked the attack away. The three Lord of Heaven sent by the evil spirit race are looking down on the three realms, but I have to say that they are still too weak. If you want to deal with the three realms, you need to be at least at the divine Lord level of cultivation, understand? Yi Tianyun grinned, and his gaze immediately locked onto Shaky Amorn. Shakyman's cultivation was the lowest, so he would be the first target. Only the divine Lord can deal with you. The three of them were startled, and then they laughed out loud. This is simply nonsense, and you still want to use the divine Lord to deal with you. We admit that you are quite capable, but you can't even handle the three of us Lord of Heaven. Is that so? In my opinion, you are just a pile of trash. Yi Tianyun stretched out his hand and lightly pointed, and the flying swords around him quickly flew towards the heaven realm. With his current ability, he could control the flying swords to attack anywhere in the three realms, so he could easily eradicate the evil spirit race in the heaven realm. Shakyman's gaze turned cold. He opened his huge hand and grabbed the flying swords that were flying towards the heaven realm, instantly enveloping the entire sky. Controlling the sky with one hand, this was the power of the Lord of Heaven. The cultivators below were all stunned. Even a god king wouldn't be able to do this, right? With one hand holding the entire sky, it could be said that he had covered up the entire place, making it impossible to see anything clearly. On the other hand, it could be imagined that he could directly crush the mortal world with his hand, just like crushing a small stone. He wanted to intercept these flying swords. They could see that these flying swords were quite powerful. If they were allowed to fly past, their subordinates would definitely be killed. God King Skycloud. They were all worried about Yi Tianyun. Shi Shueyun rubbed her stomach and looked up at Yi Tianyun in the sky. Although it hadn't been many years since they last met, seeing him again made her feel very at ease. However, right now, they were extremely worried. They had never seen this power before, and even though they were below, they could feel their bodies trembling. It wasn't that they were afraid, but this force made their bodies tremble involuntarily. With these flying swords. Then I'll intercept them all. Let's see how you're going to resist then. Boom. Before any of them could react, Shakyamuni had been blasted into a bloody mist. The mist continued to fall from the sky. It was a beautiful sight to behold. Who told you to intercept my flying swords? Yi Tianyun's figure appeared next to Shakyamuni. There wasn't a single trace of blood on his body. As for Shakyamuni, he had already been blasted into a bloody mist. God King Sky Cloud. Fan Hongda, who was rescued, looked at Yi Tianyun in shock. He didn't expect that Yi Tianyun would really come back. Previously, the elder of the ancient Ming Divine Pagoda wanted to unify the three realms. Now, he suddenly appeared, and his power was so terrifying. If he really wanted to unify the three realms and drive the heavenly cloud divine nation off the altar, then the ancient Ming Divine Pagoda would be destroyed. Fortunately, he didn't do that. Otherwise, after the evil spirit race was destroyed, the ancient Ming Divine Pagoda would be finished. Yi Tianyun nodded. He didn't know about these things. He immediately controlled the flying swords to fly towards the heavenly realm. Soon, those flying swords joined the battlefield and reaped the lives of the evil spirit race. Now that the three realms had defenses, the situation in the three realms was quickly stabilized. There were no large-scale casualties. The remaining two Lord of Heaven were shocked. Shakyamuni, whose cultivation was almost the same as theirs, was killed in the blink of an eye. They didn't even have a chance to react. Are you the one who killed our companions? Their faces were gloomy as if they were facing a great enemy. They quickly became alert and didn't dare to relax. The contempt in their eyes disappeared and was replaced by a sense of solemnity and crisis. Yes, is there a problem? Yi Tianyun looked at them and said indifferently, batch after batch, it seems that the core here is quite attractive to you. Yes, the core of this place is very good. I admit that your strength isn't weak, but compared to us, you are still too weak. If you hand over the core and join us, we, the evil spirit race, are willing to not hold you responsible. We will even arrange a good planet for you to stay and settle down. They started to put forward their conditions for negotiation. Only when their strength was equal would they have the right to negotiate. Arrange a good planet. I think that planet doesn't have a core at all. A planet without a core has such a thin energy. To me, it's no different from trash. Yi Tianyun sneered, moreover, I've already said that I'll kill as many as you come. No matter what the conditions are, I'll kill without mercy. There were many planets outside, many larger than the three realms, but these planets didn't have cores. A planet without a core was like a huge rock. It was impossible for life to grow, and it was of no help to nurture life. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Tianyun took a step in the air and charged towards the two of them. The two of them immediately roared and erupted with all their strength. Their bodies emitted a golden light, and their originally pitch-black bodies became as dazzling as gold. They felt that their defense had increased by a large amount, and they could shake the heavens and shake the earth. How can a grain of rice compete? Yi Tianyun's eyes flowed with a red light, and a shocking killing intent was released from the red energy crystal in his body, enveloping the two of them. This killing intent was absorbed from the God-killing pagoda. Now that it was released, it instantly pierced into their heads. In the next moment, a wave of killing intent surged in their hearts, and the vision in front of them gradually turned red. This killing intent immediately affected their rationality. Sokya Hun seemed to have gone crazy as he pounced towards Yi Tianyun. However, he didn't use any martial arts, nor did he use any weapons. He only used his fists to smash forward. But could he win with just these few things? He didn't even use his strongest power. This was the use of killing intent. It could make the opponent lose their rationality, but they couldn't even use any weapons or techniques. They were like idiots. Chapter 971. Sokya Hun was immediately affected by Yi Tianyun's murderous aura, but Sokya I's situation was slightly better, especially the eye on his forehead. He can still hold on and not be affected by the murderous aura. But Sokya Hun wasn't so lucky. He roared and rushed towards Yi Tianyun. He didn't use any power, he just rushed towards Yi Tianyun like a fool. Wake up! Sokya I roared. A strong sound wave came out of his mouth and hit Sokya Hun's soul, trying to wake him up. Sokya Hun's body shook under this roar. His eyes that were filled with red light gradually began to return to normal color. He didn't expect Sokya I to be able to break Yi Tianyun's murderous aura. Of course, this doesn't make much sense. Yi Qianyun's figure has already rushed over, and with the heavenly divine spear in his hand, he pierced through Sokya Hun's body. Sokya Hun just woke up, the white light penetrated his huge body, accompanied by a bang sound. Sokya Hun was easily killed, turned into a lot of EXP. Ding successfully killed Sokya Hun, gained 637 billion EXP, 11 million CPS, 7 million SPS, obtained evil spirit's soul, evil spirit's blood, evil spirit's bone. A lot of EXP kept popping up. If he absorbed the energy from the life core before, it would take him a long time to get so much EXP. Of course, this was only possible with the help of the experience card. If it weren't for the fact that his cultivation is too low, he would have directly entered the evil spirit race's ancestral land and started a massacre. At that time, his cultivation level will definitely soar. It will be much better than cultivating in the life temple. Sokya Hun. Sokya I's eyes were red. These are his brothers. 2 of them were killed in a blink of an eye. How can he not be angry, but also sad? Oh, you can still feel sad. Yi Qianyun looked at him and said with a faint smile, I thought you are cold-blooded, you don't have any feelings of sadness. I swear that even if I die, our evil spirit race will completely flatten your world. Sokya roared with red eyes. Seeing his angry roar, Yi Qianyun sneered and said, Oh, now you know how it feels when your brother dies. We, the 3 realms, have never provoked you, but because of you, countless people have died. Or rather, the weak are prey to the strong. That's very good. I will let your evil spirit race know what the law of the jungle is. Ha ha ha, delusional human race, even if I give you 10,000 years, you won't be able to catch up to our evil spirit race. Sokya's eyes were filled with anger as he smiled. At the same time, he condensed the strongest strength in his body, ready to erupt at any time. Don't worry, even if I really can't deal with you, I'll keep pestering you. I'll kill every one of you I see, and I'll run away after I kill one. I'd like to see how many of you there are for me to kill. Yi Qianyun's voice was icy cold, his eyes filled with determination. Even if he couldn't win, wouldn't he escape if he did? He didn't need to kill his way into the ancestral land. He just needed to find them, and when they left to do their missions, he could harvest them. Sokya's eyes narrowed. The fact that Yi Qianyun could easily kill his brother meant that he had the power of the Lord of Heaven. If there was an extremely shameless Lord of Heaven that constantly interfered with them, it would really be a headache. Then go to hell. Sokya's eyes revealed a trace of a sneer as he extended his hand towards Yi Qianyun's head. A sure-kill divine light shot out from the eye on his forehead. The pitch-black light was like a black hole that could devour everything as it pierced towards Yi Qianyun. The area that was touched was immediately engulfed by this energy, causing the surroundings to turn pitch-black. Even more space began to collapse. The space of the 3 realms was completely unable to withstand this terrifying power. A large area was engulfed by this light. It had been daytime just a moment ago, but in the blink of an eye, it had turned into a pitch-black night sky. It seemed that while Sokya's eyes were negotiating with Yi Qianyun, he was actually accumulating power and unleashing his strongest attack. Facing this power that could penetrate everything, Yi Qianyun's eyes flashed, and he waved his hand to block this attack. Boom, boom, boom. Violent attacks continuously bombarded Yi Qianyun's body. Following that, the pitch-black light turned into a black ball of light that enveloped him. Ha ha ha, what an idiot. Did you really think that we would recruit you? Sokya's eyes were filled with resentment. When you killed my brother, you were destined to die. Sokya's eyes had only casually said a few words. He definitely wouldn't choose to recruit Yi Qianyun. How could he let go of an enemy who had killed so many of his comrades? Unless Yi Qianyun's cultivation was strong enough to make the evil spirit race fear him, they wouldn't even think about recruiting him. No one would be willing to recruit an enemy. God King Skycloud, when they saw the situation above, they felt as if their hearts were being tightly strangled. They didn't know how Yi Qianyun's situation was. Being hit by such a terrifying power head-on, he definitely wouldn't feel good, right? Rip, the pitch-black void was suddenly torn apart, and the originally pitch-black sky returned to normal. Yi Qianyun's figure reappeared in front of everyone. His body was completely unharmed, and his entire body was covered in red dragon scales. If one looked closely, They wouldn't even look like dragon scales. Instead, they looked like layers of thick red crystals that covered the surface of his body. They possessed astonishing defensive power. "This is your power." Yi Qianyun looked down at him and said coldly, "If the evil spirit race only has this kind of power, I'll flatten your ancestral land tomorrow." "No, impossible." Sokya's eyes had used all his strength. The attack was filled with dense death energy, and it could corrode everything, but it couldn't even corrode a single hair on Yi Qianyun's body. It couldn't even break a piece of the crystals on his body, let alone his skin. He was completely unharmed. "I hope the evil spirit race will send more experts next time. These are too weak." After saying that, Yi Qianyun held the heavenly divine spear tightly and pierced through. Extreme radiance. His eyes flashed, and the spear in his hand flickered with a cold light, turning into an extreme light that cut through the sky. Unlike the attack of Sokya's eyes, it was a warm light that bathed the surroundings, making people feel very comfortable. When Sokya's eyes opened his mouth to say something, it was already too late. He could only see his vision covered by the white light, and then all his consciousness disappeared. Actually, he wanted to say that Yi Qianyun couldn't deal with the evil spirit race, but Yi Qianyun didn't want to listen to his long-winded words anymore. Bang! Sokya's eyes exploded in the air, turning into a blood mist that was quickly evaporated by the extreme white light. Chapter 972. The three Lord of Heaven were easily taken care of, as if they were drinking water. Yi Qianyun felt that the difference between him and those death gods was too great. Those death god generals were much stronger than them. Back then, he had easily taken care of them. Now that he had a breakthrough in his cultivation, under crazy mode, these people were nothing but trash. After killing the three Lord of Heaven, Yi Qianyun immediately went to support the other two worlds. He used his strongest power to sweep over, and wherever he went, a bloody mist would erupt. The three Lord of Heaven were gone, which meant that what was left was a group of defenseless evil spirit races that could be easily taken care of. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Qianyun for successfully reaching the level of the 6 refinements Earth Lord. Do you want to level up now? Not for now. Yi Qianyun was not surprised. There were so many evil spirit races here, and after killing them all, he would be able to earn a lot. It was not surprising that he would be able to obtain the experience needed to level up. Especially before he returned, he had absorbed a lot of experience. After returning and earning a lot of money, he could easily level up. This was just as he had said, this group of evil spirit races were here to give him experience. The other party was already very cautious, sending out 3 Lord of Heaven cultivators. There were very few Earth Lords in Fanyu, and even if there were, sending out 3 Lord of Heaven would not be a problem at all. However, the one guarding the 3 realms was not an ordinary person, but Yi Qianyun. In such a short period of time, he had already successfully broken through to the level of the 6 refinements Earth Lord. It was truly difficult for anyone to compare to him. If they sent out a peak-level Lord of Heaven or a Divine Lord, it would be difficult for him to make a comeback. Of course, it was impossible for the other party to send such a powerful existence over. Originally, sending out 3 Lord of Heaven was already overestimating the other party, and they even sent out a Divine Lord. It was not that they could not send out a Divine Lord, but it was a waste of resources. Divine Lords were not cabbages. They did not want to waste their time in this area and had their own things to do. However, after this matter, it was hard to say whether or not the other party would send out a Divine Lord. The 3 Lord of Heaven had all died here. The loss was quite severe. In that case, they had no choice but to send a Divine Lord to suppress them. At this point, it was no longer a core problem of the 3 realms, but a problem of their own reputation. The higher one's cultivation, the more they valued their dignity. They had sent out so many experts, yet they were all annihilated. How could they swallow this insult? Next time, there might be a Divine Lord or an existence with a cultivation of a later stage of the Lord of Heaven. Yi Qianyun's eyes flashed as he felt the pressure increasing. Unless he transferred everyone away, it would be too difficult. As for moving the 3 realms, that was even more difficult. He reckoned that even a Divine Lord would not be able to do it. To the other worlds, the 3 realms was not considered huge. It was just that it was rather difficult to store a world into one's body. Even the planet in Yi Tianyun's body was several times larger than the three realms. However, it was too difficult to forcefully absorb a planet into one's body. It required a lot of power. At the very least, he was unable to do it now. He could only absorb the cultivator into the planet in his body. This was the simplest and most crude method. However, this meant that he would have to leave the three realms. Was he going to abandon his hometown just like that? Could it be that I can only continue to resist or destroy the evil spirit race's ancestral land? Yi Tianyun frowned. This would easily make him unable to breathe. Time was too tight, and the pressure was even more astonishing. If he could temporarily hide, it would be a situation that he would be extremely happy to see. He thought for a moment and shifted his gaze to the interior of the three realms. His eyes immediately lit up. Core, he thought of the core of the three realms. The other party wanted to occupy the three realms because they had their eyes on the core of the three realms. If he took out the core and stuffed it into another planet, wouldn't that be equivalent to transferring it? Everything depended on this core. As long as the core was transferred, everything would be fine. Very good, then I'll go take a look at the situation of the core later. Yi Tianyun flew back and landed beside Shueyun. He hugged her and comforted her. I've frightened you. Don't press me. Shueyun gently pushed him away and rubbed her stomach in dissatisfaction. Don't be so forceful. You're going to press on the child. When Yi Tianyun saw Shueyun's bulging stomach, he immediately said in ecstasy, This is our child. Nonsense, could it be someone else's child? Shueyun rolled her eyes at him. This. Yi Tianyun scratched his head. As it was too sudden, he really did not react. Speaking of which, how long have you been pregnant for? It doesn't look big. Shueyun's stomach was not considered big. It was only slightly bulging, but it was not very obvious. I've been pregnant for almost 10 years. Shueyun rolled her eyes at him and said, Looks like our child is so special. It hasn't been born even after 10 years of pregnancy. 10 years. Yi Tianyun looked at her stomach and couldn't help but smack his tongue. He had never heard of a child not being born even after 10 years of pregnancy. He had only heard of a child being born after 10 months of pregnancy. Shueyun had been pregnant for 10 years, but still couldn't give birth. This was too exaggerated. Yes, but I can feel that this child is growing very healthily. It has been absorbing my spiritual power, so it needs a lot. I have eaten a lot of elixirs and pills, and almost couldn't satisfy the child's appetite. Shueyun rubbed her stomach, and her eyes were filled with love. I have all of this. Don't worry. Yi Tianyun hastily stuffed the storage ring into her hands and said, I have prepared all of these for you. You can use as much as you want. Shueyun snatched the storage ring and rolled her eyes at him. After a little inspection, she discovered that there was a huge amount of elixirs and starstones inside. She was immediately stunned. There were many things that she had never seen before, and they were all piled up inside. There are so many things. Don't you want to keep some for yourself? Shueyun didn't really want to get anything from Yi Tianyun. She just wanted to get some care. It's okay. You can take all of these. I still have some. Yi Tianyun smiled foolishly. He stretched out his hand and rubbed Shueyun's stomach. I will come back often in the future. I will also bring back some tonics. Look at you. You still have the face to say this. It has been 10 years. I thought you would never come back. Her eyes turned red. She really had this thought before. What? 10 years. Yi Tianyun frowned and said, I remember that only 2 or 3 years have passed. How come 10 years have passed? Did I lie to you? Shueyun glared at him. Strange. Yi Tianyun thought for a while. Soon after, he clapped his hands and said, I know. It should be a problem of time and space. The flow of time in the divine domain is slower. The flow of time here is faster. That's why such a situation occurred. He recalled the content that he had read before. The reason why the divine domain was a good place, other than the rich star power, was time. The flow of time was 1 to 5. That meant that 1 year in the divine domain was 5 years in the outside world. This meant that one could live longer in the divine domain. Chapter 973. The difference in space and time caused the passage of time to be different. No wonder they thought they could not come back. Think about it, after the 3 divine kings left, they probably felt that they had only been gone for a few decades or 100 years. They felt that the time was too short, so they did not come back. Who knew that thousands of years would pass in the blink of an eye? This was not impossible. Of course, the real possibility was that they had gone to a faraway place and could not come back for a while. The crueler possibility was that they had died outside. This kind of thing was very normal. After traveling around the divine realm, Yi Tianyun knew that the degree of danger there was far higher than in the 3 realms. In any case, he did not hear any news from the heavenly mandate divine realm. Then Yi Tianyun told Shi Xueyun about the situation in the divine realm. After listening, Shi Xueyun was very nervous at first, but then she was relieved. She felt that she had experienced it herself. After the end of the battle, groups of people gathered together and began to discuss various things. Among them, the elders of the ancient Ming Divine Tower kept their heads down and did not dare to look at Yi Tianyun, mainly because they were afraid that Yi Tianyun would see through what they had been thinking. If he knew, they believed that Yi Tianyun would definitely kill them. Fan Hongda himself felt very embarrassed. Although Yi Tianyun did not know, how could he not feel embarrassed when his own people had such thoughts? Yi Tianyun looked at them in confusion. He did not know why they did not dare to look at him, but he did not think too much about it. Now everyone has seen the situation. The evil spirit clan continues to send strong enemies, and they are all at the level of the Lord of Heaven. Yi Tianyun looked at them and said in a deep voice, "In these years, I have traveled around outside and found that the outside world is far more vast than our world." Then Yi Tianyun told them about the situation in the divine realm. After listening to it, everyone was shocked. They all thought that the Divine King stage was a very strong level. Now that the Divine King stage was actually called Star Lord, it was just the beginning in the divine realm. They suddenly felt like frogs at the bottom of a well. They didn't know anything and didn't understand anything. It was like they had just learned to walk. After the explanation, all of them fell silent. No matter how strong they were here, if there were enemies invading, they would be like ants, easily trampled to death. These are the details of the situation that I've learned in these few years that I've been away. At the same time, I've brought back some martial arts that are more advanced than heaven-class martial arts. It can help you break through faster. Yi Tianyun looked at them and said. After he finished speaking, he took out the low-grade reincarnation-grade martial arts. Everyone looked at the martial arts on it with complicated gazes. If it were them, would they have the courage to do so? A reincarnation-grade martial skill was unheard of. It was a level stronger than the best heaven-grade martial skill. To them, a high-grade heaven-class martial art was equivalent to a national treasure. How could they give it away so casually? But Yi Tianyun did it, and gave it to them without reservation. This made many of them feel ashamed. What they didn't know was that the martial arts that Yi Tianyun gave them were the most trashy martial arts. They were very precious here, but they were very ordinary in the deity domain. At this time, the elders of the ancient Ming Divine Pagoda looked at each other and stood up. They all came to Yi Tianyun and knelt down. Yi Tianyun didn't know what was going on. God King Skycloud, we feel guilty, because you haven't returned for too long. We even encouraged the Patriarch to unify the 3 realms. Of course, we have absolutely no intention of harming the Skycloud Divine Kingdom. We are still protecting the Skycloud Divine Kingdom. We have absolutely no intention of harming it. Although you might not know it if we don't say it, now that we see that God King Skycloud is so broad-minded, we feel extremely guilty. We feel that we have let you down, God King Skycloud. We intend to let you punish us as you wish. They didn't choose to hide it. Instead, they chose to say it. After listening to them, Yi Tianyun narrowed his eyes and looked at them. If they didn't say it, he wouldn't know. However, they wanted to be safe. If the news leaked, they would be finished. Rather than being found out, they might as well say it obediently. That way, they would undoubtedly be less guilty. It's normal for you to have such thoughts. After all, there are precedents. I won't blame you for this. Yi Qianyun waved his hand and said indifferently, "The key is that you don't have any intention of harming us." "I believe that. We have absolutely no intention of harming you. We swear to the heavens." They were drenched in cold sweat. They weren't wrong. They just wanted the ancient Ming divine pagoda to unify the three realms. Harming them was too much. If Yi Qianyun really came back, they would at least have a unified excuse. But if he harmed them, then everything would be over. "Yes, I believe you." Yi Qianyun nodded and said, "Then, you may rise." "Thank you, God King Skycloud." Only then did they rise. The others looked at each other. Even if they really had such thoughts, they all dispelled them. This time, it was too much of a shock to them. Yi Qianyun easily killed such a powerful existence. One must know that compared to the previous group of evil spirit race, they were much stronger, but they were still killed by Yi Qianyun. It was conceivable that Yi Qianyun's cultivation had broken through to a higher level. He was an existence that they could only look up to. Ding. Successfully made all the emperors loyal to you. Reward, 10 billion EXP, 500,000 crazy points, 500,000 proficiency. Reward, 1,000 commander points. Even if Yi Qianyun asked them to obey him before, they didn't obey him like this. All the experts in the three realms were present, which meant that if they wanted to create chaos in the future, unless he was dead, there would be no problem. Even if he died, no one would dare to do anything to the heavenly cloud divine nation. Because with Yi Qianyun here, the speed of cultivating experts would definitely be faster than them. The meeting ended quickly. Yi Qianyun asked them to come here to let them know about the divine realm, so that they wouldn't be frogs at the bottom of the well. The three god kings had not returned before, so they didn't know much about the outside world. After explaining, Yi Qianyun immediately set out to find the core. His main goal now is to see if he can transfer the core. Immediately, he left the heavenly cloud divine nation and flew to the central area of the mortal world. The area where the core is located is in the mortal world. After all, the area where the core is located in the central area, and Fan Yu is in the central area. However, even though the core is so close to the core, Fan Yu is the worst, which is a bit puzzling. As for the actual situation, he will know when he finds the core. Along the way, he explored and soon found the area where the core is located, deep in the sea. It is not difficult to find it. His cultivation has improved so much, so the scope of exploration has naturally expanded. Chapter 974. In the sea, Yi Qianyun dove into the water and flew towards the region he sensed. In the blink of an eye, he arrived at the depths of the sea. When the surrounding sea beasts saw someone, they opened their huge mouths and tried to devour him. Yi Qianyun looked at them indifferently. The sea beasts that were about to rush over trembled, and their huge eyes revealed fear. In the next moment, the sea beasts turned around and fled. They didn't dare to stay for another second. Then, he took out the heavenly divine spear, aimed at the moist soil, and started digging. In the blink of an eye, he dug more than 1,000 meters. The speed was astonishing. And this was under the condition that he controlled his strength. If he really dug with force, he would probably penetrate the entire three realms. The power of a sixth refinement Earthlord was a heaven-defying existence in Fan Yu. However, he hadn't broken through yet, so he couldn't be considered a sixth refinement Earthlord. He hadn't passed the heavenly tribulation, so in theory, he wasn't a sixth refinement Earthlord. Soon, he dug more than 100,000 meters underground, but he still hadn't reached the end. 100,000 meters wasn't deep. It could even be considered shallow. The reason why the Life God Temple reached the bottom at 100,000 meters was that the core was in that region. It didn't mean that he had dug through the planet at 100,000 meters. The place where the core of the mortal world was located was still quite deep. When he dug more than 1,000,000 meters, he finally felt an extremely strong energy wave coming from the region below. "I'm almost there." Yi Qianyun's eyes flashed. He quickly dug down. When he was about 1,100,000 meters deep, he fiercely swung his spear down. With a clang, it was as if he had smashed a thick piece of iron, causing his hand to go numb. What's going on? Yi Qianyun was shocked. One had to know that he was holding the heavenly divine spear, a mid-grade reincarnation level weapon. Using such an extravagant weapon to dig up the earth was simply too wasteful. However, Yi Tianyun didn't mind. He just wanted to dig faster. Who knew that he couldn't dig down here? It was normal for a spear to be unable to penetrate something from the divine domain. Was there anything in Fan Yu that couldn't be penetrated? He squatted down and rubbed the soil away. A thick and flat rock appeared in front of him, and it was covered with dense divine patterns. The 9th grade defensive divine seal is indestructible. Without the cultivation base of a heavenly god or above, no one can shake it. The appraisal eye transmitted the detailed information over, causing Yi Tianyun to fall silent. Only heavenly gods and above could break through. A 9th grade divine seal could only be carved by a 9th grade divine inscriber. Now, this thing had appeared in the 3 dimensions, and it was inconceivable. What was the level above the heavenly god realm? It was an existence stronger than the Lord of Heaven or even the divine monarch. Generally speaking, he was a Star Lord, then a 9 refinement Earth Lord, then a Lord of Heaven, and finally a Divine Lord. After breaking through to Divine Lord, one would become an Empyrean. Only after breaking through to the Empyrean level would one become a celestial god. The heavenly god stage was equivalent to the body forging stage in the 3 realms. It was an existence that the God King stage could only look up to. But in the 3 realms, there was a 9th grade defensive divine seal. This made Yi Tianyun extremely shocked. Which 9th grade divine inscriber had nothing better to do and came to the 3 realms to carve such a powerful divine seal? There are other core fluctuations. While he was shocked, he felt another fluctuation coming from above his head, and there was also a fluctuation coming from below. After carefully sensing it, he discovered that in the 3 realms, each realm had a core. This meant that the 3 realms had 3 cores, which was unheard of. According to the information he knew, under normal circumstances, no matter how many levels a planet was divided into, it would only have 1 core. There would be no more. But in the 3 realms, there were 3 cores beyond his knowledge. There was no need to guess too much. Yi Tianyun knew that the other 2 realms had thick defenses, and it was impossible to break through them easily. Without the strength of a heavenly god or above, how could one break through? 3 cores, if I say it out loud, it will probably drive people crazy, right? Yi Tianyun looked at the thick seal below. It seemed that even if the evil spirit race occupied this place, they would not be able to take away the core. A heavenly god existence, the evil spirit race would have a heavenly god. It was impossible. The evil spirit race was at most equivalent to a 2nd grade god realm, and heavenly gods would probably only exist in 4th grade and above god realms. 4th grade and above god realms had no interest in Fan Yu at all, so it was impossible for them to send any heavenly gods over. But now, they existed. An existence that could carve a 9th grade divine seal definitely had a powerful cultivation base. A heavenly god or above, this was inevitable. No one would believe that an existence above heavenly god had visited the 3 realms and even blessed the core with a divine seal. This was like a slum. Rich people would definitely not step into it. If they went in, they would only dirty their clothes. But now, a rich person had walked into the slum and even left something here. In that case, I can't transfer the core. Yi Tianyun shook his head and revealed a bitter smile. He originally thought that if he transferred the core, it would be equivalent to taking away the 3 realms. Who knew that not even the most basic defense could be broken, let alone taking it away, and he was firmly blocked outside. Even if he was a native of the 3 realms, he could not open this place. Let me take a look at the situation here. Yi Tianyun cleaned up the place, and soon a clean stone tablet appeared in front of him. Apart from the profound divine seal carved on it, there were also a few other large words on it. 3 realms divine seal, human seal. Yi Tianyun read out the words on it. After thinking for a while, he really could not think of a reason. He only knew that this thing could not be broken, so he could only see if he could sense it. Then he reached out and covered it with his hand, and began to use his spiritual awareness to see if he could penetrate this place. If he used teleportation, would he be able to move inside? When he used his spiritual awareness to explore, a terrifying suction immediately pulled his spiritual awareness down. He did not even have time to react before his consciousness completely disappeared. After an unknown period of time, he slowly woke up and found himself in a thatched hut, surrounded by complete furniture. However, this place looked very simple and crude. There were no divine artifacts, nor any precious spirit herbs. It was just a very ordinary small wooden hut. Where is this? Yi Tianyun hurriedly jumped up and found that he was actually a spirit body. His body was a little transparent, clearly his soul had left his body. He hurriedly got off the bed and quickly rushed outside. Just as he rushed out, he was immediately stunned by the outside world, an ordinary little village. Outside was just an ordinary little village, with dozens of thatched huts on the side. Many villagers came and went, greeting each other, and he actually became one of them. Chapter 975. While Yi Tianyun was shocked, he saw that the villagers around him were all in soul form and not in physical form. This meant that they were all souls and not real living people. However, they were all like real people, greeting each other or discussing at the side. There were also many children playing around. Apart from that, when he looked up at the sky, it was no different from the outside. The sky was blue, and there were farmlands on the side. Everything looked so beautiful, just like a paradise. That is, Yi Tianyun looked up and saw a familiar person. To be precise, it wasn't a familiar person. It was a cultivator he met a long time ago, but he was dead. However, he could see him here. He lifted his feet and walked forward, but no one greeted him. He was like air, and no one paid any attention to him. Along the way, they all turned a blind eye to him. He didn't care about anything and just walked forward. The further he walked, the bigger the village seemed to be. He couldn't see the end at all. The further he walked, the more villagers there were. They were all farming here or returning from hunting outside. Everything was no different from the outside. However, as he continued to walk forward, he started to see some changes. Groups of villagers were lining up like they were going to do something. He reached out and patted one of the villagers, asking, "What's going on?" The villager's body was patted, but he didn't turn his head and ignored him. He continued to stand there in line. It wasn't that these villagers were unconscious. Instead, the villagers at the side were talking and laughing as they continued to line up. They didn't react to his shouts or patting at all. They would only react to their own people. He was like an outsider, and no one reacted to him. That's weird. Yi Tianyun frowned and looked at them in confusion. Is it because I didn't die and randomly barged in that they can't see me? Of course, he didn't want himself to die. After all, it wasn't a happy thing. Then, he continued to walk forward. Along the way, many villagers lined up. Their faces were filled with joy as if they had encountered something good. The entire line was filled with joy, and no one knew what had happened. This group was different from the other villagers. They were all talking and laughing. They didn't need to farm or anything, and they just stayed in line. After walking for a long time, he finally saw the end in front of him. There was a bridge there. There was a stone tablet carved on the side with the words "Carefree Bridge." After the villagers crossed it, they disappeared into the carefree bridge in front of them. Nothing was left. When Yi Tianyun got closer, he saw a whirlpool in front. He had a feeling that if he walked in, he would also disappear from this world. Is this the reincarnation area? He was shocked. Was the core the reincarnation area? After many cultivators died, they would be sucked into the core. After staying here for a while, they would line up to be reincarnated. He didn't expect there to be such a thing in the core. No, not all cores are like this. The core of the Church of Life doesn't have it. Yi Tianyun frowned. He was confused. There were many things he didn't understand. No one explained anything to him, and there was no phantom or anything like that. Everything was just going on like this. When it was their turn, they would obediently shut up and walk forward. Then, they would step onto the carefree bridge, cross it, jump into the whirlpool, and disappear from this world. Yi Tianyun tried to walk onto the carefree bridge. As soon as he stepped on it, he immediately felt his consciousness begin to blur. He was so scared that he quickly retreated. Even for me, after crossing this bridge, my memories will disappear completely, right? Yi Tianyun shook his head. Memories had to be eliminated. Otherwise, after reincarnation, they would carry memories. Of course, there was the possibility that some people could carry some memories back. There were also those with high cultivation and amazing willpower. After reincarnation, they would more or less have memories of their previous lives. As for walking over unscathed, Yi Tianyun believed that it was basically impossible, unless they didn't cross this carefree bridge. Reincarnation point. There is actually a reincarnation point here. He turned his head and looked behind him. There were groups of villagers queuing up behind him. In fact, they were all cultivators, and there were also all kinds of ordinary people. No matter what their identities were when they were alive, they were all queuing up fairly. No one would cut the line. He guessed that the villagers would farm here to get rid of the hostility in their bodies. After a period of cultivation, they would be able to step into the whirlpool of reincarnation. Other than that, he couldn't see any highlights. There was nothing special. There seems to be a house on the other side of the carefree bridge. Yi Tianyun looked up. If he looked carefully, he found that in front of the carefree bridge in the distance, in front of the whirlpool, there was a house. He frowned. It seemed to be a little special, but he knew that if he walked over, he would definitely be lost on the carefree bridge. At that time, he would probably be reincarnated. He wanted to fly over, but there was no way to fly here. He could only walk. As for swimming across the river, looking at the muddy river, he didn't think it was a good idea. If he fell, his fate would be even more tragic. After looking for a while, he felt that there was nothing to see, so he went back the way he came. He didn't know where the exit was, so he could only go through the place where he came from. Soon, he returned to the original place, lay back on the bed, and fell asleep in a daze. When he woke up again, it was dark in front of him, and his surroundings were wet. It was obvious that this was the area he had dug up. After he got up, he fell into deep thought. It seemed that this core could not be moved. As for the secret within, he was not too sure. Who set it up? How could it be so extravagant? He looked at the words engraved on it and really couldn't think of a reason. In the end, he could only make a teleportation point here. Then, he flew up again and filled up the soil here. After walking here, he flew to the heaven realm to take a look. He just wanted to see if his judgment was wrong. After all, he could feel the energy being transmitted from two different cores. This was a very strange thing. Soon, he found the core area of the heaven realm. Without saying anything, he started to dig quickly, reaching the bottom in one go. The distance was about the same as the mortal realm, which was more than 1,000,000 meters. With a dang sound, the celestial divine spear in his hand almost flew out. As expected, there really is a layer of protection here. Yi Tianyun was still very shocked. Even though he was prepared, when he saw the words engraved on it, he was still shocked. 3 Realms God Seal, Seal of Heaven Realm, Chapter 976. Yi Tianyun had already guessed it, but when he saw that there was another core, his heart was filled with shock. After all, this was too crazy. There were 3 cores in a planet. However, only by sensing carefully could he sense that there were 3 cores. If he sensed it from the outside, he could only sense 1 core, and the fluctuations were relatively weak. At that time, he thought that the core was small, but now it seemed that it was not small, but it was sealed. As a result, the fluctuations released were relatively weak, not particularly strong, giving people a feeling that the core was relatively weak. For the evil spirit race, as long as it was the core, it was enough. Fortunately, they had not dug through, otherwise they would have discovered something strange here. The 3 core areas had been blessed by a grade 9 divine carving master. One could imagine that the core below was definitely not ordinary. If the evil spirit race knew about this, they would definitely send people over to carry out a large-scale suppression. Even if they could not open it, there would always be a day when it would open. How could it be ordinary if it had been blessed by a grade 9 divine carving master? Thinking of this, Yi Tianyun felt that the crisis was even greater. I didn't expect there to be such a problem. It's fine if I can't transfer it, but there is such a big problem. Yi Tianyun shook his head. If he really wanted to leave, he could just take some people with him. It could be said that he was selfish, but it did not matter. As long as his family could escape from here, it was fine. But now, He had a feeling that he absolutely could not abandon this place. Such an amazing 3 realms, there might be some secret inside. Such a big seal and 3 cores, it was amazing just thinking about it. Immediately, he reached out and covered it. Soon, just like before, his consciousness disappeared. When he regained consciousness, he appeared in the village again. It's actually the same. When Yi Tianyun walked out of the house and saw the scene in front of him, he was immediately shocked. He did not expect it to be the same, no different from him below. It was not that the houses were exactly the same, but the people were exactly the same. This meant that the 3 realms reincarnation point was the same, and there was no difference between the 3. It also meant that the cores of the 3 areas were connected, forming a world. He did not go to the underworld's core, but from these 2 places, he knew that the cores were connected, and there was no distinction between them. Thinking about it, a divine inscription master who did this absolutely wouldn't separate the 3 realms, but rather connect them together. This wasn't a problem. The biggest problem was, what was the point? He looked very shocked, but he didn't know what the meaning was. If it was reincarnation, the effect would be achieved. It would be a continuous cycle, calling itself a reincarnation world. This might be a bright spot, but its effect on the 3 realms was rather small. Is there something I don't know? Yi Tianyun frowned. His cultivation level was not high enough, so he did not know what the real intention was. He felt that if he wanted to know the purpose, he would just have to cross the bridge of forgetfulness and walk to the other side. Then, he might be able to find out. Currently, his strength was still insufficient, so it was clear that he was unable to reach that side. If he really walked over there, he would definitely be lost. After a round, when he was about to go back, a voice rang in his ear. Ding! Successfully accepted the special mission breakthrough to the point where you can cross the bridge of worries and find the truth. Reward, 1 trillion EXP, 10 billion crazy points, 10 billion mastery points, 10 billion SPS. After this special mission popped up, Yi Tianyun was shocked. What a guy, after completing the mission, I got so many rewards. Yi Tianyun was shocked by the data, but he quickly calmed down and shook his head. The more the experience, the more difficult it is. This was not the first time he encountered this kind of thing. The more amazing the reward, the more amazing the difficulty. This meant that crossing the bridge of worries was definitely going to be difficult. It seems that I can't cross it for the time being. I can only go back and make plans. Yi Tianyun turned and went straight back to the hut, and soon fell asleep. When he woke up, the location was still the same, outside the thick shell. After waking up, he also set up a teleportation point and set up a few restrictions before leaving. Immediately, he came to the core area of the ghost world again, and the result was the same. He still entered the reincarnation point. He also set up a teleportation point outside, and he also set up a concealment restriction to seal the place. That's about it. Yi Tianyun shook his head. The harvest this time was not small, at least he knew the core problem of the 3 realms, but the biggest problem was that there was no way to transfer. This could not be changed, and he did not want to completely abandon the 3 realms. It was easy to bring people away, but there was no way to transfer the 3 realms. Especially those souls, if the people were transferred away, could the souls still be reincarnated? Thinking of this, he did not know what would happen, but according to the current situation, the evil spirit race would definitely send a powerful army over, and he did not know if he could resist them. This made him a little troubled. What should he do? Tianyun, what are you thinking about? Shueyun walked over and sat beside him. Yi Tianyun sighed, and then he told her the general idea, so that Shueyun could refer to it. So it's such a big matter. I never thought that there would be such a magical place in the 3 realms. Shueyun leaned on his shoulder and smiled. Although you are conflicted, you already have an idea, don't you? Yi Tianyun was stunned, and he pinched her nose and smiled. Seems like I can't hide anything from you. I have indeed thought about it. He squinted at the distant sky. How could he give up such a beautiful place? Since the other party was very powerful, then he would quickly become stronger, and then everything would be solved easily. He believed that he could definitely surpass the other party's power, especially in the upcoming battle of the divine realm. Through this battle, he would definitely be able to break through a lot. At that time, even if it was the Lord of Heaven, he would have the power to fight. Unless a divine lord or above came, he would definitely not be afraid. But what if a divine lord really came? He could only choose to escape with his people. With the teleportation divine stone, it would be easy to escape. He then gently held Shishuayun's hand and said in a low voice, "I will protect you, Shishuayun did not doubt Yi Tianyun's determination from the beginning. No matter what Yi Tianyun did, she would support him unconditionally, and would not doubt anything.